4 in the morning, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, let's kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say, we gon' be okay, we just gotta boom bada boom ba. I don't wanna fight, you know that I'm right, baby let me talk to your body. We gon' be okay, hear me when I say.
What happens when black men are accosted for all the ills that impact men and women in the community? In this show, we will explore the dynamics behind and more or less ask ourselves the question, is black masculinity and Kevin Samuels the new Mr.? Listen to this. Mr. was a fictitious man that was more or less conjectured by Alice Walker as being an abusive and a violent man, a man that abused black women, and a man that didn't have love, or a man that was traumatized mentally. But many times, anytime black men stand up and speak in firm masculine authority, when they speak with other conviction, they are often seen as Mr. Mr. often is a negative terminology to more or less convey anything similar to true masculinity. And because of that, many men were seen in a negative light when it comes down to Mr. While you might not agree with everything Kevin Samuels say, and he's a noble man, and I don't agree with everything he says either, but Kevin Samuels speaks the truth mostly when it comes down to behaviors with some of our women and some of our men. And in this show, we're going to explore the dynamics behind why many times, based on the evidence through a process called collaborative empiricism. And through that collaborative empiricism, it basically means when we come together and look at the empiricism or the science or the data, or more or less the research behind why some of our women are thinking this way. And why this woman is not a typical of all black women, because there's some good sisters that are out there. There are still a percentage of women that tend to overgeneralize true masculinity, and they tend to accuse black men of being Mr. I want you guys to explore the evidence concerning this diatribe that this woman had against Kevin Samuels. And we're going to look at another clip by a woman that more or less appears to be talking from two sides of her mouth as she relates to the issues and the factors in the black community that cause us to be scattered abroad. And I want you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male. Understanding female psychology, understanding male mental health and physical health is paramount to the efficacy of a man. Be well and enjoy the show, and ask yourself the question, is Kevin Samuels and true black masculinity the new Mr.? Be well. All right, guys, get ready. I'm about to drop some fire for your mind. I need you guys to get ready to do your breathing exercises. I want you to inhale the good, exhale the bad. That's a coping technique that many use to help de-escalate stress. And we're going to explore the evidence on today, and we're going to ask ourselves the question, is Kevin Samuels in heteronormative masculinity the new Mr.? But before we start, shout out to my dear friend TJ Randolph. Thank you, love. I really appreciate it for the $10 super chat. Thank you, dear. Gen X in the house, no doubt, sweetie. Gen X is in the house, but also Gen X appears to be the nexus point where we're beginning to see some of the issues that we're seeing, but we'll talk about it in a minute. So guys, get ready to get your pen and paper out. You guys are going to be the clinicians on today. We're going to explore the evidence and ask ourselves the question, is black masculinity and Kevin Samuels the new Mr.? Get ready. All right, we're going to drop some fire for your mind. Greetings to the people that are listening. 21 in the house. Thank you, guys. I love you guys. And this is a show where we're going to explore the dynamics behind is if, and the question remains, is black masculinity and Kevin Samuels the new Mister? Now listen, guys, when men become red pilled or when they see the world for what it is, they realize that we are not the problems to a lot of the ills that happen in society. Listen, men and women must take accountability for their bad behavior. We both must take accountability for their bad behavior. But the emphasis is that many black men feel that we take accountability for our behaviors, but sometimes our women don't take accountability 100% unequivocal for all of their behaviors. And then when we have good sisters that try to warn other sisters about bad and negative behavior, they're actually called pygmies. And what it does, it continues a negative cycle of unaccountability and the ability to not self-reflect and see the pathologies that are presenting them from getting the outcomes that they would like in the future. We live in a very trying time, and we have a lot of dysfunction in the black community. Some of the issues facing our people is due to self-sabotage. I believe it was by design to separate black men and black women. They use us as pawns of white supremacy. But the question remains that when black men try to present the women the evidence, because, in the clinical terms, we use the word collaborative, meaning we come together. Empiricism is the science or the evidence. And many times, guys, when we present them with the evidence, they have a condition called deaf. And I told you deaf is a term that I created, and it's synonymous to the term of cognitive dissonance. And deaf actually means that they deny the evidence when you present them with the evidence. They become enraged when you present them with the evidence. They accuse you, do ad hominem attacks, and they fight or flee because they cannot handle the truth. And because of that, it caused many of our women to be in states of disrepair. And also, it prevents them from getting the love and the attention that they also need. I'm going to be in Rio, Brazil soon, so I'll be filming again at some point. Continue to bring you guys content while I'm overseas. But in the meantime, I want you guys to ask yourself the question, are black men under attack when they stand firm on masculine authority? And is Kevin Samuels the new Mister? And if you believe that black men are being attacked, I want you guys to hit 1. To the 25 people that are looking, I need you guys to hit 1. If you believe that black masculinity is under attack. I want you guys to hit 2 if you believe that Kevin Samuels is the new Mister. And also shout out to my dear friend TJ Randolph once again for the $10 super chat. Thank you, guys. And to the guys that are listening, please share the content. Please share the content. And let's take some notes. Thank you guys for all the generous support. Thank you, Mr. Stewart, last week, brother. You came through with a $100 cash out, man. Much love, brother. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And to everyone that has donated to the show, guys, I'm honored for the timely support. Thank you to Tim Howard, and also thank you to Gail Lockett. You guys have been awesome as moderators. You guys always come through, and I love you guys. This is just the beginning of something new because there is a lot of mental health issues in our community. So I see 3 people have clicked on 1. I need the 27 that are watching to click on. Thanks to Sincere. So he believes the black masculinity is under attack. Thank you, brother. Jenny Morana, thank you, sweetie. She believes the black masculinity is under attack. Thank you, dear. TJ Randolph, she believes that black masculinity is under attack. Thank you, TJ, dear. And also Roland Donker, he believes that black masculinity is under attack. That's 4 people. I need about 25 more people. Guys, keep it coming. Ali Pro, he believes that black masculinity is under attack. I need everyone to click 1 if they believe that black masculinity is under attack. Tim said so as well. And then click 2 if you think Kevin Samuels is the new Mister. And if you believe it, that's fine. Then just be ready to defend your point. If you believe that Kevin Samuels is the new Mister, be ready to defend your point. Anya Kenya, she believes that black masculinity is under attack. Thank you, dear. Bridging the Gap, he believes that black masculinity is under attack. Thank you, brother. Solo Dolo believes that black masculinity is under attack. Thank you. Shout out to my man Chicago Rilla from the Peep Network. Go check out those guys, the greatest show on earth. I plan to be on their show tomorrow, hopefully for King Talk. So much love to you, Chicago Rilla. Blessings, brother. You know I love you, dog. You're a Leo. You got that Leo swag like me. So shout out to to Chicago Rilla. Shout out to Tim Hart. He believes that black masculinity is under attack as well. So keep the numbers coming in, guys. And I'm going to read this diatribe by this woman that continues to more or less further the sentiment of why black men and black women, our relationships are strained here in America. And we're going to continue to look at the evidence, because the evidence is either right or the evidence is wrong. And we're going to ask ourselves the question, what's going on with the pathologies that we're seeing here in our community? So hold tight, guys. So here is the diatribe. Here's the diatribe. I think I'll see if you guys can see it. Hold tight. Shout out to Chicago Rilla. Thank you, brother. Shout out to Chicago Rilla for the $25 super chat. Much love, Chicago Rilla. So glad you are monetized now. Yes, sir. Black men seek therapy. Thank you, brother. Much love and blessing, Chicago Rilla. Thank you, brother. Love you for the $25 super chat. Thank you, brother. And you're correct. We need therapy in our community because there are a lot of mental health pathologies. Hold tight. I'm going to try to blow this thing up. But in the meantime, while I'm trying to blow this thing up, this is what this woman says. She says that Kevin Samuels is this close to telling women you need to be prepared to be raped from time to time if you want a high-value man. And that's his right. If you got a problem with that, get an average guy. So this is the cognitive dissonance and the shaming language that a lot of our women actually use to more or less keep black men in this negative state of ignorance. And, you know, anytime black men speak out, a lot of our women tend to, or more or less, accost our men and accuse them of things that are not more or less relevant to the truth. And you see it. You see this ignorance by this woman when she says that that Kevin Samuels is saying that if a woman wants to get a high-value man, get ready to be raped. And see, guys, this is dangerous. This is very dangerous. Thank you, Chicago Rilla. Salute to you, brother. But this is dangerous because what it does, it puts black men under the microscope. It puts black men under the microscope. And what it does, it reduces or diminishes the power that a man can have in a relationship. Black men are at their best when they're given the power to be men and priests of their homes. But see, so many of our women have been conditioned in some of these liberal thoughts and some of these liberal ideologies to the point they're creating something called self-sabotage. And that self-sabotage is going to be a detriment to a lot of our women, because remember, if every woman got married today, it would still be 2 million women that would be without husbands. And so when you hear guys try to tell and warn our women about the things that they are doing, many times it's met on deaf ears because of the cognitive dissonance and the acronym I created called DEAF. And because of that deafness, sadly, many will die alone. And you know, that's not our desire to see our sisters die alone. That's not our desire. It's not our desire to see our sisters die alone. Shout out to Tim Howard for the $5 super chat. Thank you, Tim. Love you, brother. Shout out to Tim Howard. And shout out to my man, classy young man from BMO. Thank you, brother. I will be in Rio this week at some point. But it goes back to what I'm saying is that anytime black men begin to assert authority and power in relationships and try to give our women guidance, many times it's met with rejection. And a lot of that, guys, is due to the family dynamics that we're having. If you're not used to seeing a strong masculine imprint in the family, it's going to be very odd and hard for you to adapt and to condition yourself to understanding the importance of having a heteronormative or a black man. And because many of our people are maladapted, it's making them not ready or suitable for relationships. That's why many people need to go to therapy before they get married. We need to do what's called a genogram. A genogram, what it does, it helps people to look at all the fragmentation or the brokenness in their families or relationships so they can see what points they need to work on to become the better versions of themselves. Many people can be chronologically 35, 40, 50 or whatever, but developmentally they could be still in a stage of their development where they didn't get the things that they need. Erickson talked about it. He called it trust versus mistrust. And so many people are still in the stages of mistrust, and many have been conditioned through liberal ideologies that once again, they're reducing their abilities to have the relationships that they want. So when you see these guys, when you see this woman accusing more or less slandering Kevin Samuels as being a Mr. because Mr. was a typical iconoclast. He was a typical iconoclast because he was an icon that was erected, and because of that icon being erected, they saw him as something negative or dangerous. And so, why is it that so many black men, when they assert their authority, is seen as toxic and seen as Mr.? Because in many other countries, when black men assert their power and authority, it's actually an understanding. Have our women been conditioned to not respect true masculine authority? Has it become a red pill moment for a lot of men when they begin to see things like it is? Men like James Evans were seen as pillars in the family and the community. But if James Evans was living in this modern day, would James Evans be seen as a Mr.? Because James Evans was a very masculine and a very dominant man. I want you guys to get ready, because after this clip, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to ask ourselves the question through the conversation: is Kevin Samuels the new Mr.? And once again, is heteronormative masculinity also being complicit in Mr.-like behavior? So I'm going to stop sharing this one. Hold tight, guys. And hold tight. And I'm going to click on this new show, this next clip. And I want you guys to listen and take notes, because it's important to take notes, because the old folks used to say, tell the truth and shame the devil. So we're going to shame the devil on tonight. And the topic of the show is accountability. Shout out to Ian Grace for sending me this, and also my man, Mr. Nelson. He sent me this, and we're going to talk about it because it's important that we talk about it. And so it's say accountability, what it looks like. And based on my recollection, guys, this woman is telling what's called half truths. She's got some points right, but she's not looking at all the dimensions that have caused the issues that we're having today in society. So I want you guys to listen to this. I want you guys to take notes, and I'm going to be stopping it intermittently. And then I want you guys to get ready to pop in. Tim Howard's going to drop. I'm going to drop the link to Tim, and we're going to have a discussion. Get ready.
For as long as I've been alive, I've heard black media and black men specifically voicing their complaints about black women. The manosphere will say that this is the first time that black men have had the chance to express their frustrations with you, but we already know that this isn't true. They say that it's not about bashing you, it's about holding you accountable. The manosphere just wants some accountability for the role that you play in the dysfunction of the black community. Black women are more than half of this demographic that we call Black America, so there has to be some things that black women should be accountable for. Right now, black men's list of grievances include, but are not limited to, asking you to be accountable for your bad attitude, your high obesity rates, your single motherhood rates, your masculine tendencies, your refusal to submit, your promiscuity, your independent woman girl boss career obsession, but somehow also your gold digging, and most importantly, your hair weaves. I might have missed one or two other items, but I'm sure a Dusty will be in the comments ready to let you all know what it was. Now, a couple of weeks ago, some of you voiced your disagreements with my take on Steve Harvey's comments in the video, The Sadism of Black Male Dating Coaches. Some of you agreed with Steve Harvey, stating that Steve was simply asking women to take accountability for allowing themselves to be mistreated by men.
I know all the mistakes women allowed me to make, and I put them in a book for you.
Where I believe the disconnect is coming from is a difference in understanding of the word accountability. Webster's dictionary defines accountability as an obligation or a willingness to accept responsibility for one's actions. So, taking on an obligation that resulted from an action that you took is what is required to be accountable. And accountability can be a little tricky to assign because every action is preceded by another action. So when
But the question remains, guys, and I want you guys to ask yourselves the question, and I want you guys to be honest by clicking 3. What gender do you feel is held more accountable in America based on the evidence? Because you guys are going to be the clinicians. Are black men held at a higher level of accountability in America, or are our women held at a higher level of accountability? When you look at the laws, it appears that it does not favor black men. When you look at child support, when you look at a myriad of things as it relates to the penal system or sentencing, it appears that it does not more or less affirm black men. If black men don't pay their bills, they don't get any help. So I want you guys to ask yourselves the question based on from what you see. Does society tend to hold black women more accountable, or do they feel like they tend to hold black men more accountable? Hit 3, and we're going to keep listening to the discussion, and we're going to have a powerful discussion after this clip.
When someone is being held accountable for something, it's very tempting for that someone to go further and further back in time to pin the deed on someone else. And before you know it, everything started with the serpent in the Garden of Eden. So when Steve Harvey says that he wrote down all of the mistakes that women allowed him to make and put them into a book for women to learn from, what he did was assign an obligation to someone else for something that resulted from his mistakes. There is a word for that, but it's not accountability. It's called blame. Blame is to be accountable for a wrongdoing. It's to find someone responsible for a fault. By Steve Harvey's own words, he was the wrongdoer, ergo he deserves to be accountable for the fault. He deserves the blame. I know some of you may feel that helping women to look out for behavior like the one Steve admits to have exhibited in the past is a form of retroactive accountability. But real accountability would be to write a book teaching men that no matter what a woman will or will not allow, certain behaviors like treating women like notches on a belt are unacceptable. Knowing the difference between accountability and blame will help you to understand why black men's insistence that you be quote unquote accountable is so treacherous. You can start with the single motherhood rate. Black men want you single mothers to be accountable for choosing the wrong men. Besides the fact that everyone, both men and women, choose wrong, and at least all except for one of your romantic relationships will...
But see guys, here's the quandary. Did you guys know that currently that over 29% or damn near 29% of men are virgins? You know and I know that women are the gatekeepers to sex and men are the gatekeepers to relationships. Now, let's go back in time to some of the older sisters, the Gen X sisters and the boomers. TJ and I had a conversation and she was talking about there was a time when women, the mothers and the elders taught their women virtue. But if you look at the data pre the sexual revolution, black women were some of the most conservative women in the world. Black women were very conservative. They didn't do some of the things that their white counterparts did. So if you look at the times before the sexual revolution, most black women weren't having kids out of wedlock at the rate that they're having now. And also black families were more intact. But I said in the past that, you know, and Tavis Smiley said it, that when white America gets the cold, gets the flu, gets the cold, black America gets the flu. And so if black men are the gatekeepers to relationships and black women are or women in general are the gatekeepers to sex, a woman can't get pregnant if she's more or less living up to the mandates and the icons of her ancestors, because black women were not having children out of wedlock at the rate that they're having them now. And it's not a black woman issue solely, it's an American issue, but unfortunately, our women tend to have the highest issues. And for it to be the smaller percentage of the population, it's a travesty that our women are admitting these kind of things. And so while this woman is more or less talking in my mind in circular reasoning, she has some good points, but also she's still trying to deflect from looking at things through the lens of reason. Should black men be accountable for getting women pregnant? Yes. We're held accountable because we're expected to pay child support. We don't have the options to say my money, my choice. If we get a woman pregnant, by law, we're forced to pay it. But women get the option to say they can either keep the baby or to terminate it. So we got to look at this through the lens of collaborative empiricism, because it appears that this woman is being or she's not being as genuine, or she's being disingenuous. So keep listening.
Eventually fail, besides the fact that the black community should be embarrassed that the average black child can't have a reasonable expectation that the average black man will stick around after they're born, and besides the fact that the single motherhood rate is going up for women of all races, as the census shows a rise in white and Hispanic single mothers with mixed children fathered by black men, why would a woman need to be held accountable for a man abandoning his child? When a woman takes care of a child alone, when she shouldn't have to for the next 18 plus years, that is the accountability. That is taking on an obligation that resulted from the action.
But that's a myth. She's not taking care of the child by herself, because she's getting assistance from the government. And many times, guys, men want to be in the lives of their children. And see, that's the projecting and the blaming that this woman is saying. It's almost like she's deaf. She's denying the evidence. She's becoming enraged when you present her with the evidence. She argues the facts, do ad hominem attacks, attacking the messenger instead of attacking the message, and she fights or flees. She's fighting right now. because she's not being genuine. She's preaching what's called half-truths. And the truth is that black men are held accountable, and many times black men don't want their women to abort their kids. They want to keep their babies. I've known women that have turned their life over to God, and they said that the men begged them to keep the baby. But black men don't have choices if once that seed is planted in the woman. He doesn't have equal responsibility to say, I want to keep the baby or to abort it, because it says, my body, my choice. And so the man doesn't get the opportunity to keep that child if he wants to keep that child. But in other countries where there's a patriarchy, the child is seen as the seed of man. Even in theology, the Bible calls it the son of man or the seed of man. But men, black men or men in general, white men as well, we don't get the same privileges and the same rights, because the fatherless movement was actually started by black men. So I want you guys to keep listening, because you see the thinking errors or the cognitive dissonance, and also the minimalization or the thinking errors that this woman is saying. Even though that she has some factual points, she's off mentally with some of her juxtapositions. Keep listening.
Of giving birth. What black men want you to do is be responsible for their actions, to take the blame for their faults, when the person who needs to be blamed for the wrongdoing, abandoning a child in this case, is the person who did it. Sure, there are tools that black women need to use to avoid being mistreated by others, practicing discernment or vetting, setting boundaries, and my favorite, plotting revenge, come to mind.
Before we continue, thank you to Tim Howard. Thank you, brother. Once again, James Turner for the $5 super chat. Thank you, James. We're going to continue in a minute. And then also, thank you from Solo Dolo. They do a lot of projecting instead of taking accountability. They just want to blame men. And I'm beginning to see that pattern, brother. I believe that all men and women should both be accountable. But this definitely looks like classic projecting, in my opinion. So thank you guys for the guys that are donating. I would more or less, after I finish running this clip, run through the super chats. Don't want to keep stopping the stream, but thank you guys, and I love you guys. Keep listening.
But let's do a little thought experiment here. If you had a group of 10 hot-in-the-pants boys ready to say and do anything to get a girl pregnant, and 10 girls who are equally as hot in the panties, ready for morning sickness and prenatal vitamins, and you send them all out into the world, at the end of a year, which group do you think will have the most illegitimate children? Well, barring any twins, it's not possible for the girls to have more than 10 illegitimate children. But the group of boys can have an infinite number of partners and an infinite number of children that they will not stick around to raise.
And see, guys, once again, that's a myth. While men can make more children and make more babies, a man cannot get a woman pregnant unless he does something onerous with the R word, the great word, the R word, and also if he molests a woman. But in general, men don't have the power to commit those kind of atrocities that these women are talking about. Men don't have the power to do that. So she's being disingenuous once again. At the end of the day, women have the power to determine who they're allowed to enter inside their bodies. My grandmother, bless her heart, she's dead now. My grandma used to say, keep your dress down. Because my grandma knew that the person that had the power as it relates to sex are women. And so we didn't have these high levels of out of wedlock children, but also single parent homes when our women were more or less practicing the mandates from their mothers and their grandmothers and their great grandmothers. It was shameful to give a man your body without demanding that he put a ring on your hand. And so men in the past, they got what they wanted. The woman got a man to provide for her. It was fair exchange, because in fair exchange there is no robbery. And most women came to the table. They were virgins and they didn't have kids. And they, and so the family was a lot more stable because a woman could pair bond better because she hadn't had a lot of men. And so men and women are not impacted the same through sex. Men can have sex with multiple women, and it does not impact us the same with women. But with women that have not had a lot of partners, when they have sex with men, they tend to pair, they tend to bond with that man, especially if they have an orgasm. And so it can cause that woman to be broken if that guy's a liar. Listen, we have some dusty men that will lie. There are predatory men out here that lie to women to get between their legs. And so there's an old sentiment that says that men will lie to get into a woman's pants and women will lie for a relationship. And that's why we need strong fathers and women holding each other accountable. The gospel said that the older women teach the younger women. Keep listening.
The fact that one irresponsible man can create so many broken homes and yet the community puts all of the responsibility on its women is in part why this strategy of eliminating single mother households hasn't been working. Men of other communities hold the men accountable because leaders hold themselves accountable first and everyone else second. But in the Black community, things are a little inverted. And when the community's mess.
But how can we hold the men accountable, ladies and gentlemen, if we don't have what's called a true patriarchy? The men are not running their communities, it's being ran by women. And guess what? Many of the women don't want to concede the power. You know, when they did the Monahan report, you know, shout out to my dear sister Dana with the data. I was on her show last night. It was a great show. But when they did the Monahan report, also shout out to BGS Itmore, they were basically saying is that as women got government entitlements, it was weird because Monahan thought they would make them want to be more with their men, but it didn't make them want to be more with their men. It made them repel their men, and that led to more single-parent homes. Back in the 70s, it was a pandemic to have 26% of your children being born into single-parent families or out of wedlock. But it's an atrocity that damn near 80%, almost 80% of our children are born in single-parent homes. Black people mentally were some of the most conservative people in the world. But when we got indoctrinated by some of these liberal ideologies, when some of our men and women wanted to be more like our liberal, not conservative whites, because all white people are not monolithic. They're liberal whites, they're conservative whites. But when we wanted to be like the conservative whites, look at what happened to our communities. Our communities are in shambles, and unfortunately, a lot of black men are saying, "Save yourself, black man," and they're traveling abroad and they're dating women from other countries. Keep listening.
Message is that only women are responsible for children and that women who fail to get the fathers of their children to take on the responsibility of raising them deserve to be shunned, you can start to see why so many black women have a built-in distrust of black men, a reasonable suspicion that the men who approach them are there to take more than they give. All too often, they're proven right. Of course, black men don't like when you have that kind of attitude, and let's face it, black women do have to be accountable for their bad attitudes. It's not a myth. Your matriarchal ancestors developed a set of physical and personality traits that helps them survive an environment that their men could not protect them from, and that's still true today. Nonetheless, a bad attitude is a liability. Anywhere outside of Blackistan, a bad attitude hurts you more than it helps you, but many of you don't live outside of Blackistan, and that's the problem. You live in neighborhoods where men behave like this.
And see, guys, that's another thinking error called overgeneralization. She's taking these group of degenerates to equivocate it to all black men. And see, that's a thinking error called overgeneralizing. It's called overgeneralization. And that's what happens when people tend to look at things through the lens of their feelings instead of looking at things through rationale. That's an irrational thought because she's overgeneralizing all black men to do this to children. And we know that that's not the case. 53% of black men don't have children. Many black men are upstanding men. They have done researches and reports to say that black men take care of their children more than any other ethnic group. But this is what you see, guys, the continued assault on the image of the black man, which more or less leads to them assuming that black men are like Mr. And it's unfortunate. Keep listening.
And the supposed good guys and the educated lames that you're all overlooking can't or won't protect you from these goons that run the block, but demands that you walk around that same block feminine, fit, friendly, and submissive with a smile on your face. Let's be real here, black men aren't winning any congeniality contests either, but nobody has a problem when black men are as aggressive as they feel like they need to be to survive. 1,100 black girls and women have been killed so far this year. Last year, 1,500 of you were killed, 100,000 black women and girls went missing, and millions were assaulted. We haven't even mentioned children and the LGBTQ community. I find it disturbing that when the topic of what is destroying the black community comes up, black women's attitudes are at the top of the docket when the men can't even get the murder rate down. And I get it, crime is a symptom of poverty, but so is obesity and so are bad wigs. So why are we extending grace to men who terrorize their own neighborhoods, but not to women who try to survive alone in them? Every year, study after study shows that Black women's obesity rates are a combination of abnormally high stress levels, overstretched food budgets that lead to poor quality food choices, lack of time to prepare healthy meals as they're often the only ones working in a household, and food deserts and food swamps where Black women have.
And you can tell this woman has a hint of liberal thought processes. She's often looking to blame instead of doing the internal work, which is shallow work. Shout out to my man for the $5 super chat. Shout out to Millennial Dad. Thank you, brother, for the $5 super chat. He says that at the Culture Clinician, I greatly appreciate this knowledge you're bestowing on young brothers and all men alike. Salute to you in this platform. Salute to you, brother, because we got to get the message out. We got to more or less look at the research, because a lot of this that you're seeing is more or less, more in my opinion, of liberal thinking and liberal ideology. Keep listening.
Have limited access to fresh whole foods. But when you ask Black men to build some grocery stores in these same food deserts that their women and children live in, watch the look of confusion appear all over their faces and listen for the excuses that will follow. They want you to look like princesses and behave like princesses in an environment that princesses do not belong. To raise little Black girls to be docile and fragile and demure in Blackistan is to raise daughters to be lambs to the slaughter. When the men don't feel like there's anything that they need to do to make your community safer and to help you drop those intergenerational defense mechanisms.
And see, guys, once again, it's apparent that men and women just don't think alike. She's not looking at the systemic issues that are impacting Black boys. When I went to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and I did my seminal work, and it was talking about the school to prison pipeline, we're not empowering our boys at the same rate that we're empowering our girls. And see, what this woman is doing, guys, is a product called magical thinking, which is delusion. It's part of having delusional disorder. It's called magical thinking. And basically, magical thinking means that she can make things come out, or more or less project things outside of herself, meaning she can project things out of the thin air where there's no evidence that she has the power to do it. Magical thinking normally is a byproduct of, in the clinical term, we call it delusional personality disorder. And so you can't not accost the Black boys and not raise them at the same level that you're raising Black girls. You can't have Black girl magic and Black girls rock if you're not having Black boys rise. Now I think about doing a t-shirt called Black Boys Rise, because you can't raise a nation of warriors no higher than the elders in the community. You got to have elders in the community. But we don't understand how we've been accosted by liberal policies, because as BJS Edmore said, that sometimes some of our women, not all, shout out to the good sisters that, well, more or less standing with their men, but some of our sisters, they believe that the white man's ice water was a lot colder. And because of that, believing that, they abandoned their Black men and they rebelled because they wanted power like white women. And now they're suffering the recompense of their era, unfortunately. Keep listening.
So that you can finally rest in your femininity, accountability becomes a new zip code. But heaven forbid a Black woman mention that she's only considering men who can afford to move her out of these neighborhoods and into safer ones. After a long shame-filled lecture about gentrification, here comes the pitchforks and the scarlet letter G for gold digger. And let's explore that. Are Black women really gold diggers? Because let the manosphere tell it, and you're all after these men for their hypothetical money.
A mansion. $10,000. Where he at?
It is true, Black men still earn more money than Black women, but married Black women are more.
And sure, many of them practice what's called carnal hypergamy. Many women discard their men for frivolous reasons to get the top tier men. So this woman is delusional. Tim Howard just dropped a link saying he's correct that 80 to 90% of divorces are initiated by women, not just Black women, all women. But 90% tend to be educated women. Look at the fiasco, guys, that we're seeing with some of these celebrities, where they get rid and discard of a decent guy to try to get a good man, another man making similar or more money, only to find out that once they get older, they don't have the same options that they had in their 20s. And so a lot of our women, some of them are gold diggers. I'm not saying all, but there's some women that are very predatorial when it relates to getting men in relationships. Keep listening.
more likely to be the breadwinners in a black household than the other way around, making black men the most likely to marry up in both finances and education, and you the most likely to marry down. So the men can throw Cardi B lyrics in your faces all day, but you simply do not have a history of passing over men who earn less money. And black women face disproportionate amounts of financial abuse from their intimate partners in comparison to all other demographics. But if you instead decide...
And that's another lie and a myth. When you look at the research, Harvard University did a study, and Harvard University said that, and shout out to Dr. T.S. Johnson, that intimate partner violence is not one directional, it's bidirectional, which basically means that in many times women tend to start the malfeasance that you see between black men and black women. They are started, but on the back end, men tend to finish it. But there's research that says that many men many times suffer more in domestic partner abuse, but they just don't report it. So once again, shaming and not taking accountability, and also her being in denial about the issues that black men are going through. Most black men are berated a lot of times in relationships. The women that get in their face, they'll push them in the head, and the guys try to walk away. But what happens, after time, that man gets tired of being emasculated and he snaps. But they're not looking at the triggers that led to that emasculation, which in essence renders that woman not being accountable for her bad behaviors.
That you're going to do what's necessary to protect and provide for yourself by yourself. Watch your entire community chime in with their criticisms of your ambition, quickly reminding you that you can still have everything, but you're nothing without a man. And men don't care about your education or how much money you earn, which they should, since they don't seem to care about their education or how much money they earn. But you still have to survive living in this world, whether the men are willing and able to help you do it or not. They blame you for surviving without them, but you're not allowed to ask them to provide for you, as if most of them could. They're fine with you being a working woman, but they blame you for not making it look prettier. They blame you for your attitude, and they don't care that you live in rough neighborhoods because they blame you for the crime rates because you birthed the criminals. They blame you for going into debt, getting degrees like sociology or psychology that they say are useless because the black community doesn't need social workers or therapists. And of course, they refuse to get the degrees for themselves. No matter what you do, black men are going to blame you for this community's past, present, and future dysfunction. Interesting, no other community sees this the same way.
I can't tell you how often it is that these black women are left holding the fucking bag. They are the strongest thing in these neighborhoods.
Then you want to get mad when a black woman doesn't want to put up with your shit. And they make you level up. They make you better. Like, they're so solid. They be holding people down that they care for. 10 toes down.
All of this blame disguised as accountability. And why is that? Why are black men all of a sudden so hell-bent on pointing the finger at you? Because if they weren't, then we would be focused on them, and they would have to answer some tough questions. Like, while the single moms who got knocked up by Pookie and Ray Ray were raising all of these children alone, what were the good black men doing with all of that extra time on their hands? What did they build? While the overweight women were getting all of those useless degrees, what were the men doing with that time? What did they build? While the women with bad attitudes were starting businesses and getting into corporate America, what were the men doing with that time? Blame has been a very useful tool for black men because it shifts the focus to your unappreciated actions instead of black men's complete inaction. And why should they do anything for you anyway? History shows that if they don't raise the children, then you will. If they don't provide, then you will. And if you fall short in any way, then they can just blame you. Blame has become a cheap parlor trick for the dusties of the internet. And you're falling for it. That's why tweets like this go viral. We rejected men who were going to make us wives for guys who made us single mothers. Men are not trash, but our taste for men is trash. We are sorry. So apologizing to one group of men who did nothing for you for the actions of another group of men who abandoned their children, absolving the supposed leaders of the community, and indicting yourself is your understanding of accountability, and you wonder why you're on the bottom. Where is your self-respect? If you still need to understand the difference between accountability and blame, imagine you need to run errands in a neighborhood that you know isn't safe. You have to park your car and you know there's a chance that it could be stolen. Accountability for keeping your car safe would be locking the door, maybe putting a club on the steering wheel. Let's say you didn't do those things and your car was stolen. Accountability would be filing a police report, calling insurance, etc., etc. But who would be to blame? Blackistan would blame you. You should have known better. Not locking your doors would be asking to get your car stolen. Even if you did lock your doors, you shouldn't have parked in that neighborhood. You shouldn't have come on that night. Somehow you would be responsible for the wrong that took place. But the law would put the blame on the car thief because they are the actual wrongdoers. And there is a reason why no matter if you locked your door or not, if you put a club on your steering wheel or not, or bought a low jack or not, the person who stole your car will always be the person that the law will hold responsible. Because when a society ensures that a wrongdoer is forced to take the blame for their wrongdoing, there is order. But if the wronged can be held responsible for the wrongdoer's actions, that society will devolve into chaos because men will feel like they can get away.
But the truth is, who took accountability, regardless if you like R. Kelly or not? We're not here to talk about R. Kelly. But the women that raped R. Kelly, were they held accountable? Did anyone hold those women accountable for raping a man that turned to a monster? A man that became hypersexual and began to exhibit some of the same things that was done to him as a child? But once again, this is circular reasoning, where this woman is being disingenuous in her pronouncements. Listen, we can't take care of our community, and a woman can't get protection if she's not totally and fully submitted to her man. Everyone, men and women, must take accountability. But I think most men tend to be more pragmatic. When we do something wrong, most men will say, yeah, I effed up. But a lot of times our women will deflect and not do the self-introspection because I feel that most women are not designed to do it. It takes a strong woman to go against her feelings. But if a woman can learn to go against her feelings and do the shallow work, shout out to the women that do the shallow work, it's going to make her the best version of herself and also make her suitable for a good man. Keep listening.
With anything and blame it on the victim. And that is what is happening in Blackistan. It's not a community, it's a cratocracy. Warlord rule where might makes right. A code of ethics that says that the strong can prey on the vulnerable, and if you allow it to happen, then you deserve what you get. And you go right along with it. Like a battered woman in an abusive relationship, you believe that when someone hurts you, somehow you caused it to happen. It seems as though the community believes that the missing key to ending the dysfunction is Black women being held accountable. So, be accountable. If the complaint is that Black women are having children with absentee fathers and all of these fathers are Black men, stop having children with Black men. If the complaint is that Black women are raising these boys to be thugs and criminals, don't raise boys. Reconsider having them. If the complaint is that the girls have a bad attitude, don't raise them in a rough neighborhood. You need to move. If the
Listen to what she said. That's infanticide. She said reconsider having them. So is she saying reconsider having them meaning don't have sex? Or is she saying reconsider having them by aborting them? That's alarming, guys. I want you guys to listen to that. This woman is delusional. She's speaking half truth. She's speaking truth with error. Keep listening.
The complaint is that these girls are supposed to be looking for a husband to take care of them in college instead of putting off motherhood for a career in a hot girl summer. Don't send them to an HBCU where they're going to outnumber the men almost 3-1 and their chances of finding a quality relationship tanks. If men are not responsible for getting swept up in the prison industrial complex, but you are responsible if supporting these men ruins your lives and you'll be thrown to the accountability wolves, then don't support Black men in prison. Don't entertain Black men who have a criminal record for any reason under any circumstances. In fact, do not uphold any code about no snitching. Clean up the trash in your neighborhoods. The prisons might be filled with Black men, but the crime rate is at a record high, so maybe not enough of them have been put away. Don't entertain or marry men who can't afford to pay for a wife and children to live in a safe neighborhood. And if you can't find one, then don't have children. No work with a brother, no hold a brother down, no help a brother out, no nothing. Accountability is the total removal of your presence and your support, because if you truly are the cause of all of this community's problems.
And you notice how she's projecting running to the white man. You notice how she's projecting that the white man is the answer to all her issues and her problems. I don't have any issues with white men. There's some white guys in these spaces that pop up every now and then. Shout out to Peter Farm. I have no issues with white men in general. But basically what she's trying to say is that Black men are dusty, black men are unaccountable, and they're solvent to many of their problems as white men. But here's the issue, guys. Many white men are saying that they're having the same problems. Some of these so-called swirlers, like the Crystal and Karazans of the world, and the Cynthia G's, are realizing that many times the white men that they glorify don't want them as well, or they use them as fetishes, whatever you call it. And while one could argue that black men are being fetishized also, the fact is that black men universally are celebrated throughout the world. And I think that causes some consternation with a percentage of our women. But you see what this woman is projecting. She's being passive aggressive. Because anytime black men decide to exercise their options, a lot of our women say you should be loyal only to black women. But the truth is, many times black women are not loyal to black men. And that's what a gynocracy looks like, where the women dictate to the men what they should do. And I'm trying to empower men to say this: you go where you're celebrated. I'm not saying white women are the answer, because many times men that leave the confines of America actually deal with African or Afro-Latin women. You just have to vet those women properly, because many of those women have been influenced by Western thought and ideals as well. But see, we're talking about the odds. The odds are a lot higher in finding suitable traditional marriage-ready wives abroad, unfortunately, than they are here in America. And to the small percentage of sisters that are marriage-ready, let the men know, and let the men know that you are ready to submit to their program and to get on their program. Because with 53% of men not being married, never have children, there are men out here looking for good women. But this woman said that in HBCUs there's more women than men, but here's the caveat. Many women had the opportunity to get decent men in college, even with that small percentage. But women by nature are hypergamous, and some practice carnal hypergamy instead of practicing a term that I created called kosher hypergamy. Kosher hypergamy is fit and proper. It's not exploitative. It basically says, I want a man to take care of me, provide for me. I'm going to support him. If he's down, I'm still going to love him and be there for him. But many men are petrified when it comes down to getting married, because they know if they get married, if they lose their job, if they become impotent, then it's a potential that that woman might leave them. So this woman is being very disingenuous. She's preaching half truths. And also she's doing the veneer of being passive aggressive. Keep listening.
Then your departure will only make it better. Because if there's one thing that I want you all to take away from this channel, it's that if someone doesn't appreciate what you do for them, the last thing you should be thinking about is how you can do more of it. And in a nation with ever-increasing income inequality, women of all races are lowering their standards to meet the men who can't afford them. But when they go low, black women, you need to go high, because you can't afford to make those kinds of mistakes.
And basically she said meeting black women that can't afford them. And that's really sad, because this is a sign of narcissism or narcissistic traits. She's basically thinking that she's better than the man. And see, watch this, guys. As I said earlier, my parents been married for over 50 years. This is what a man got 50 years ago, over 50 years ago, or maybe back 70 years ago. He got a virgin, a woman with no kids, and a woman that was not promiscuous. She didn't have a lot of fun. You know, some of the guys call it Randrew. But now you got women that have these negative traits, but they still demand that a man bring all the traditional virtues that men had of yesterday. And you see how hypocritical and foolish that is? Once again, in fair exchange, there is no robbery. So how can a woman expect herself to get men that are going to provide, protect, and take care of her and treat her like a quote-unquote queen, but yet at the same time, men are the arbiters of treating women like queens? Patriarchies developed the whole concept of romanticism and chivalry. And once again, guys, this is a woman that sees you only as a commodity to serve her, a term I created called the commodification of subjugation as it relates to solipsism. And that's the pathology that you're seeing now. So I'm telling you guys, if you're married, kudos to you. If you're not married, try to find a decent sister here in America if you can find her. But I think the pickings are slim. But to the men that got passports and that are traveling, shout out to my man Tim Howard, they're saving themselves. Save yourself, black man. And they're looking for women outside of the confines of America, mostly Afro-Latin, African, Asian, or whatever. They're finding women that can support them and follow their program, just like this black woman that was swirling with the white man. If she can swirl and explore her options. Young men and middle-aged men, you guys need to explore your options too, because you guys are merited. You guys are not slaves. You guys demand dignity. You guys are loved, and you guys demand justice. Do not lower your self-esteem to narcissistic, solipsistic women. Do not respect you as men, because what you're doing, you are reaffirming negative behavior reinforcement. Keep listening.
Lest you be blamed for the consequences, and the future belongs to the women who prepare for it right now. I'm Mahogany Pink. I teach Black women the shadow sides of Black men and themselves. Join my email list if you haven't already. This season's seminar list drops today. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.
All right. All right. What did you guys think about that diatribe? What did you guys think about that negative pronouncement of Black men? Tim, I'm going to drop the link. I want the brothers to come in and have a conversation. Also, the ladies. TJ, if you're here, come in too, please, dear. And let's have a conversation. To some of the women that believe in supporting Black men, I want you to come in as well. But I want to hear from the brothers. Because what did you guys think about that negative diatribe? This woman being disingenuous, it's evident that she's part of the goddess movement, the deification of the Black woman over the Black man. You saw that on the last part of that clip, her having that goddess symbol, which is a form of solipsism, which is also tied into narcissistic personality disorder. Hold tight, guys. Hold up, Mr. O. I'm going to let you in a minute, brother. Let me read this super chat out real quick. Hold tight. I want to read the super chat. I want to make sure I get them because I love you guys for supporting me. Shout out to Casual Observer. Jamal L with a $9 super sticker. Thank you, brother. Much love and support. Hold on. I'm trying to see the super sticker. Shout out to the Casual Observer for the $2 super chat. He said, mate with and raised dumb as they didn't blame the environment. Applause. I agree with you 100%, brother. And then also shout out to, let me see, who's the next person? If I can find him. Yeah, shout out to Black Fire Rising. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, brother. Would love to speak with y'all sometime when you have an open invite. Well, I'm going to drop the link. I'm going to bring Mr. O on the stream. And Mr. O, when you hear this negative pronouncement, and it's obvious this woman has some delusional traits associated with magical thinking, many men are beginning to take it's a what I call a philosophical term, the red pill, and they see things for what it is. What do you think about this diatribe that was more or less pronounced by this woman, brother?
Well, actually, I give her kudos. I mean, I like the display, the information, even though it's misguided and feel like it's kind of regurgitated garbage from the 80s and 90s rhetoric of the sisterhood. I actually give her kudos. At least she came off well researched. Like she came off like she knew what she was talking about, even though she don't know what she's talking about.
Right.
And I salute the professionalism into her content. Now, the only thing I want to dissect, and I basically you already done this in your commentary during our live stream. Kudos to you, Kosher. No problem. See, the disingenuous thing, she wants to go ahead and move the goalposts. She wants to tell her audience, mainly probably American BWs, that Black men, no matter how much you go ahead and submit, but want to rest in your femininity, no much how you want to go ahead and be a ride or die chick, they still gonna leave you, make you into a single mother, beat on you, and everything in between. Just like the title of your subject tonight, Mr. Ironically, I came by because my name is Mr. O, and I actually kind of sympathize with Mr. from Color Purple.
I do too.
I mean, look, Color Purple. Now, dig this here, Kosher. Alice Walker, the woman that made and wrote Color Purple, she was a divested.
Right.
The main character in The Color Purple is described to the T of the Black men that she despised the most. She made Mr. look like unattractive, tall, dark-skinned, uneducated Neanderthal that just basically wants to rule over women and don't want to go ahead and pursue great things in life. That's what she tried to portray us in the 1980s, and that's what majority of black women to this day use that film, use that character to paint a picture of black men being abusive. But if I was to reverse that, if I was to find a female version of her in which we can use Precious Mother. Now they get mad and say that not all of them are like that, but they'll say and swear it down, we all like this.
Exactly. That's cognitive dissonance at its worst. I want to ask you a question, Mr. O. Tell me a time where you saw where black men or anything masculine is associated with Mr. But also, do you believe that Kevin Samuels is the new Mr. based on what you've seen from his work?
Kevin Samuels, he's not. I mean, the thing about KS, or what y'all call him KS, he's cool. I mean, his message is a sense of trying to build and bring black people together for the hopes of positive relationships and marriage. I just don't like his delivery myself a little bit sometimes.
Right, I agree with that.
I mean, I'm not going to wholeheartedly agree with everything in the manosphere. I mean, but we all to agree to disagree while being disrespectful to each other.
Right. Totally. Yes, sir.
Yep. So I say that to say this. No, he has no inkling of being a mister. The thing is that when people come and tune into his channel, his shows at night, they have to know that he is being professional as possible. He's trying to keep everything, like your name, kosher. You don't want nothing to get viral. That's why he screens his Zoom calls. This is why I'm still a whole press that these actually, I'm thinking he paying these chicks, but that's just me. No, I don't want to go, nobody go tell him that, but it is what it is. But he screens his Zoom calls. He's trying to make, honestly, he's trying to go mainstream, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's doing it the right way. You know what I'm saying? That's why I can't hate. He's doing it the right way. This is what it becomes disingenuous to the women that want to break him down, though. Okay, y'all have women platforms that down black men, that want to see the deletion of black men. I don't use the like the word, the K word or S word. Yeah. So they want to go ahead.
Turn your YouTube on too.
I don't have my YouTube on.
Okay, so echo.
Yeah, stream y'all. Sometimes you see I'm on my phone. Sometimes they have an echo. They need to go ahead and fix this product. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not on YouTube. Actually, I'm in my own room right now in pitch dark, not darkness, but quietness. So yeah, yeah. So women content creators on YouTube that want to go ahead and shut down KS, want to shut down other male content creators like AM, Angry Man, everybody else because of our viewpoints and talking points, whether it be social or political. They cannot stand that black men are actually have a voice. We're actually building something again. We built this country already. They don't want to talk about that. I mean, Benjamin Banneker literally built and made Washington, D.C.
Right.
We don't want to talk about that, black women, but we are actually back into building. We're trying to build a new Black Wall Street as far as the East Streets is concerned. We can't build Black Wall Street with brick and mortar no more. That philosophy is over with. Now everything is being transferred to online. We have this thing now called the metaverse that they're trying to incorporate into our lives. So you can reinvent yourself and become something that you are not in this world into the metaverse world. The thing is, we don't want the old world tactics to mess up this new world philosophy. And this is what content creators like Mahogany, what's her name again?
Mahogany Mastermind.
Oh wow, Mahogany Master. Oh yeah, wow. Oh man, we got a lot of work to do. Oh my
Yes,
God.
I agree.
But again, I like how she came off. She spoke her piece. Like I will let people talk and speak their piece. I mean, we are the great debaters. This is a platform where we can actually debate and our talking point and see we can actually get some kind of great dynamic or some action. Hopefully we come together, but unfortunately we just talk about separating each other and tearing each other down. And that's what she did with this whole segment. She said 1 minute they want us to work, but then they will get mad, but we want that to become called gold diggers. By definition, a gold digger is a woman that only is attracted to a man for his money. A man is supposed to be on his business. He's supposed to be focused on money. And I actually might have to go ahead and say one thing from KS that I actually agree with. A man that's working and taking care of his business, no matter how much of a gold digger, will not overweigh his ambitions. So no matter how much he go dig, she should not be able to go dig your ambitions as a man, and man that's taking care of his business. Forget the gold diggers. She gonna take what you give her.
Right.
Yeah, I'm waiting for somebody. Ain't nobody else want to come up? Nobody want to go ahead?
I'm gonna drop the thing. I got my man Supreme Kai. Hold tight. But also, I want some of the women to come up. There are women that are listening, and to the 54 people that are listening, please donate to Cash App $7 Smalls. Thank you for everyone that's donated. And if you don't have anything to donate, please share the content. Share the content to the 54 people that are listening. And the question that we're asking ourselves is Kevin Samuels the new Mister? And also, is anything associated with black masculinity the new Mister? Thank you, Tim, for dropping the link, brother. Thank you. So go ahead. We got my man Supreme Kai and Black Fire Rising. What are you guys getting from this conversation? And before you answer the question, is Kevin Samuels and black masculinity the new Mister based on your recollection? I mute yourself, guys.
Oh, yeah. You can hear me?
Yes. Go ahead, Supreme Kai.
Oh, yeah. Like, based on the propaganda shown and pretty much that woman's talking points, I mean, one, of course, she sounds kind of bitter. And I noticed within what she was talking about, she didn't mention anything about the good black man. It's just like, you know, she said to a lot of women, hey, pay attention to not giving any attention, ironically, to the men who cause all the problems in the neighborhood, and more towards the women in the neighborhood. And it's just like, wait a minute. It just shows that the good black man is basically invisible. So that means she came in with an intent. And then put on top of that, it was just like, what I noticed with this whole thing, I mean, it's really just propaganda, but just to get to the point, she's actually relating all this to the white man basically being God. Why I say that is because when you look into the clips, when you look into basically the talking points, this sounds more like a white supremacist.
Right. I agree. Right, I agree.
A reason to actually take out any issues against the black man, saying, oh, the black man is unfit to be even a parent or to be a good Samaritan to society. So it's just like, if you have somebody on the inside making these points, which is why she brought up, you know, the talking points of, you know, a white man and a Hispanic person, it was to basically give credence to that. So this is, again, propaganda that basically this system uses to justify why they do stuff to black men.
Right. And also, in my mind, it's a sign to more or less for them to reduce the visibility of black men. You know, she went right to the defensive instead of going to the positive. She focused only on the negative aspects of black masculinity or heteronormative masculinity. And so it's almost like it's always a negative diatribe. Anything associated with black men and masculinity is always associated with something negative. But to the point, do you believe that when black men speak out, they're associated with being Mr., in your opinion?
Yes. This has been a long propagated image. The whole thing of a black man who is abusive to his family, who always rape and degrade their own women, all that. Well, we know there's very few men that actually exist like that when it comes down to the black community. It only started becoming more of a thing when basically single motherhood came and a lot of the children were bastardized. And what I mean by that is, like, there was, well, since welfare, you know, in the 1970s, and then going on to the 80s when the crack era hit, now you had people who were in the streets and they didn't have no father figure because their fathers was either getting locked up or they fell victim to the cocaine epidemic, the crack epidemic, I mean. And so, you know, they didn't have no father figure, so who was the one in the house? It was just the mother, and the mother wasn't actually taking care of them because they were working. They had to be both the mother and father, which didn't make any sense. But again, a lot of these women were having children with drug dealers and basically, you know, and also people who were pretty much giving off the image of being a provider. It's
Right.
like there's many movies where people don't actually look into and notice that women always go with the one that has the money. At the end of the day, they're always having children or having some sexual relations with the one that has the money, and usually it's within that kind of realm. And even when it comes down to the guys that actually are, you know, at a career, who, you know, they might be lawyers, they might be people who are making money in these kind of white collar realms. They don't, our women really don't really go for them. They're invisible a lot of times. So this idea of, you know, black men being, you know, this negative typecast is just like, most black men is invisible to most black women, really.
I totally agree,
Like,
brother. I totally agree.
They only specifically go for certain types of black men, and that's usually the ones who are propagated within media. So when you see this, it just shows you that really a lot of our women are mostly powered by the media. Like their whole talking points come basically off of whatever media puts out. And this is something that I've noticed for a long time. They really just go along with trends. They go along with media and what the media will put out. So it's just like if their white counterparts, which is, you know, white women, put out, you know, things within the media dealing with, you know, rap, because that's another thing too. Black people don't necessarily control the narrative when it comes down to media. It's other people who do on a mainstream level. So it's just like whenever a black woman is taking on these points, they actively participate in making that a reality. Not a lot of black women, but I mean, I take that back. There is a lot of black women, and again, I love my women, but I gotta just tell the truth. A lot of them go for what's in the media and what's the trend. It's like a lot of them want these lifestyles, but don't realize what comes with it. And then what's even worse, then they put themselves in a position where whenever they deal with men, they're looking at them from a media standpoint. They're not looking at them from the actual face of reality. Because it's just like, you know, even with this whole thing with Kevin Samuels, it's just like, how many men are really in that top 10 to 1% that really make 6 to 6 figures?
Right.
And then the next thing too is they're looking at media, you know, like with IG, like with Twitter, like with YouTube, and they're looking at so many different celebrities and thinking that they're in that place, when it's just like, that's not a reality. Even when it comes down to celebrities, they use that for promotion, just for whatever brand that they're dealing with. Their real life doesn't really entail that kind of stuff. So when I see this, it's just like, it just shows you how delusional these people are.
Very delusional.
Right. Oh yeah, and it goes back to even, and I'm just gonna make this last point, but it just shows within the black community, we haven't actually gotten away from the slave mindset, because I said this in the comments earlier, a lot of black people are still living out their slave mentality. With a lot of men, it's the buck mentality. With a lot of women, it's the breeder mentality, which is why you have a high single mother rate. That's why they don't look at marriage as a thing, and that's why even with some men who are basically completely under that kind of spell of, you know, how single motherhood had put them in, and basically the absence of fatherhood, this has given basically a rise, I should say, of the slave mentality on a major scale in modern day time. It's just that we haven't went through slavery to really observe exactly what that looks like, but this is the closest thing to it, I would say, because of the fact that you can look at the black community and see that it's not really going anywhere. You cannot reason with these people. They're really so trapped that even when you make logical points, it doesn't make sense to them. It's so much cognitive dissonance.
Yes, sir.
That even if you put down facts and show them in real life how this is, they still want to live in that illusion.
Right. I totally agree with you, man. And, you know, that's why, you know, I support black men traveling, focusing on themselves, getting their passport. If you can find a good, suitable sister here in America, get with that woman. If she's willing to follow your program, if she's been raised in a family, or she more or less haven't been raised under her father's authority, but she's willing to learn, get with that sister. But in general, I think most are done. I like what the lead attorney said one time on his show. He said that he only feels that there's 20% they're actually salvageable. And I tend to concur with that. I tend to concur that it's not even 50%. And so, just like the gospel says, they receive not the truth, shake the dust off your feet and keep moving. Your time on this earth is limited. And black men, you deserve to be loved, you deserve to be honored, and you deserve to be respected. And here's the caveat, guys. When black men travel abroad, you guys are seen as gods. You guys are seen as icons. As long as you don't go over there and simp and drag your knuckles and, over give to other women for other ethnic groups. But see, the difference abroad is that women abroad, they respect true masculinity because they don't have the government, and the men stand firm. And so when they say, well, the men need to save the community, how can the black man save the community when there's so many negative safeguards? How can black men save the community when women sometimes betray us and get mad and call the police when she can't get her way? How many times have black men been lied to in jail because their woman betrayed them, or she get in the man's face and hit him, and then when the man punches her back, then all of a sudden she's the victim and she calls the cops, and that man either goes to prison or loses life. But we don't want to talk about that. And then when other good sisters try to hold black women accountable, they're called pygmies. They're shamed into silence. And so we have a condition in the generation of women that are very violent. They're dealing with mental pathologies. And while we hold the Raekwons, the Man-Mans, and the Dusty guys accountable, it's not over 50% of black men that are doing that. It's more black men that are doing good, in my opinion, than are doing bad. Black Fire Rising, what would you like to add to this conversation? And I want to ask you guys the question, is black male masculinity the new Mister? And is Kevin Samuels the new Mister, in your opinion, brother?
Hey, man, yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate your channel. I want to say it's refreshing. It's part of an overall refreshing sort of stream of consciousness that's coming into not just the manosphere, but the world.
I appreciate it.
Initially, I was going to say something like the last brother has said, and framed in the context of life imitating art versus art imitating life. And oftentimes how, like computers that run programs, we get information streams and programs that then will dictate how we act in reality. And that's the non-tangible that is manifest in our actions, just like programming. And I think the problem is men, where we traditionally are more logic programmed and we want to act out things that have verifiable consequences and results. I think women typically operate, not all, but by and large, by desires and wants programming.
Right, I agree.
And what winds up happening is when they see art, it's easier for them to imitate that art, even though it's in a way that's not congruent with reality.
Right.
So they see things like that they want or they envision or may want, like the brother was saying, the top, 1% of men. And then what winds up happening is they put that want ahead of the logic and then try to use the logic or the reasoning to back it up and to sort of justify what they want, when it should be the other way around.
Right.
Like, look tangibly, what's attainable, what can we do, how do we better the situation, where's the accountability? And that logic is first, and then you feel good about the accomplishment afterwards. But I think in a female-led community, we have wants, desires, dreams ahead of the logic, and it's backwards.
Yeah, it is backwards, and it goes back, guys, to what I was talking about, magical thinking. They expect black men just to create, these castles and these dreams from thin air, not understanding the structural barriers that are more or less persistent. Now, listen, I don't blame white supremacy for all the ills in our community. I don't believe you can blame white supremacy for everything. Does white supremacy play a role in our demise? Yes, it does. Does systematic racism play a role? It does play a role. But the question remains is that how did our ancestors overcome when the odds were more against them in the past? We had Black Wall Street in Durham, where I'm from. I went to North Carolina Central in Durham, and they had Black Wall Street, and they were fighting. Also, Wilmington. Wilmington was seen as a type of Black Wall Street. I'm in the Tar Heel State, and we have more businesses erected in the Tar Heel State than any place. But see, here's the difference between women back then. Women back then were more cooperative. Even when they went to school, they still understood that their husbands were the leaders in the home, and they were not trying to fight power. They were more or less submitting to the power of the man. Now, there's a possibility some of them wanted the power secretly, But at the end of the day, those women knew that if they tried to usurp the power of their husband, the community will hold them accountable. There is no community now. There is no community. We live in a gynocracy and a matriarchy. And so anytime black men try to establish power, there's going to be issues of epic proportion. What's your take on that, brother?
Well, just real quick, man, if I may, I agree. And like I was saying before, in terms of the overwhelming programming that's available to our women now, whereas before when we were in coves in our communities, we were isolated, segregated, if you will. And the programming that black women had access to, in other words, information that would sort of influence and program their behaviors and realities, came by and large by us. Now, they might have had newspapers or, someone to trickle through there, or certain ideologies, but those may have been fringe in the day. Nowadays, the dominant society has such a sophistication to the programming, and women can have ideas in their head, even before coming out of the womb or by the age 5. Feminism is so pervasive, for example, in the sophistication of mass media. It's a voice that is hard to shout down for us. It's hard to even convince them in reality, to follow, when they already have images of us being less powerful, of being victims, of being, not providers, etc. They see Thor and Superman in them, and even the Eurocentric Christ, flying all over the skies, man. And I think that the thing that will remedy that is what always gets the last word, is truth and reality. And the day when truth and reality strikes, and it's in stark contrast with this fanciful programming that they're used to, then it'll be okay, ride or die sort of situation for them and for us as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. And I bring these conversations to point because I don't like seeing black men seeing themselves as less than. Tim said something that was very poignant, and it's true. He said that while all men tend to be lowering their standards, black men tend to have very low standards. Many times we accept the dregs of society, because many times some of our women say they don't want a dusty man, and that's fine, because women can say, you can't be short, you can't be broke, and you can't be dusty. I don't have a problem with that, not at all. That's a woman's right to say that's what she wants. But on the flip side, when men say you can't be morbidly obese, you can't have kids by multiple men, and you can't be ran through, then there's a problem. Why is that?
What I think on that is, hear?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, brother.
Oh yeah. What it comes down to is the idea of feeling as if there's some value to them, like more value than they previously felt themselves, because a lot of women do have, and I would say, like, especially within America, and especially when it comes down to black women, a lot of them have low self-esteem. And so it's just that bullying effect. It's like, if I can push you around and make you have all these sort of standards that I don't necessarily put on myself or certain other people, and I feel like I have power over you. And it's just the idea of, because I'm making these rules and I'm having to enforce it because I feel that you will allow me to do that, that's that whole I have the power kind of. But it's just, what it really is just, again, a side effect of low self-esteem.
Makes sense. It makes sense. Also, it sounds like reverse psychology. It sounds like a lot of reverse psychology, in my opinion, when they're trying to reverse the narrative to control you on the back end. In my opinion, that's what it sounds like to me. And it's unfortunate, man. And that's what happens when you have homes devoid of strong fathers. Go ahead, man.
Oh yes. This is really because they know for a fact that they're second towards who they're really trying to actually have the power like, which is like the white men, and basically replace the white women. So it's just, when they see the black man, they see the same thing as how they see how white men would see it, who basically are racist, I would say, like the ones who are prejudiced. It's like, oh, okay, there is these people who I see as permanent underclass. So in order for someone to make it, they have to jump through such obstacles just to prove that they're even worthy to stand next to me, because I feel as if I'm God. And so it's again a extreme version of narcissism. And
Yes.
so whenever we see
Right.
so whenever we see this is a person who is so completely immersed in their own delusion that whenever you bring logic and any actual understanding of reality, they completely negate that and basically fire at you with every bit of vitriol just to get you to fall back in their power, because they see that, well, they're vulnerable. They see that you're not falling for it. And see, that's where the gaslighting come in.
Right. A lot of it is gaslighting, which is the form, it's traits that you tend to see with people with borderline personality disorders. You tend to see a lot of gaslighting. And I wouldn't be surprised that some of these women were not, advocates or emissaries of trauma that they have not got taken care of. I want one of the women to drop in as well to add to this discussion, because there's some good sisters that are listening. And I want some of the sisters to add to the discussion. And guys, when you come in, try to cam up. I like to see who I'm looking at. I don't like looking at avatars. If you're at work, I understand, but I like to see people's faces because, I like to get a look on what I'm looking at. But this discussion is good. Thank you, brother. This discussion is good. But because, many times black men have been conditioned to see themselves less than. And so let me ask you something, Supreme Cobb. When you think about, did you grow up in a two-parent home or did you grow up in a single-parent home?
Single parent.
Right. So I'll ask you a question. How did that impact you mentally as a man? How did that impact you?
I didn't know a lot of stuff. I had to go out into the world and actually figure out a lot of things. Others will not tell you anything about real life. Like, even if they know certain stuff, you're gonna have to do some interrogating just to actually know who you're dealing with, and what you're dealing with in the world. And so, like with me, I had to basically go out and really live life. Like, I had to go through a lot of experiences that luckily didn't damage me crazy, but I went through a lot of rough issues before, just having to figure out a lot of stuff on my own.
Right.
And so, I had to find male figures and people who pretty much understood way more than me to be able to actually develop myself. But a single mom is not going to do that, because a lot of times, again, it goes back into the mentality of what type of person you're dealing with. A lot of black mothers is unfortunately programmed to be breeders, just like how there's black men in the community, the ones who are shooting up, doing a lot of crime, they're actually programmed to be the fuck.
Right.
And this is how the system actually has this permanent underclass.
Right. I agree with that. Right.
And so when we see this is really the result of these two people coming together and making a permanent underclass. Like, when we see women who have this cognitive dissonance and continuously allow this to happen, and we see men allow this to also continue and contribute, these are these two types of people that the system has created. This is the result of America's breeding of the buck and the breeder. And so what we're seeing every time when we try to make these points is the dissonance that they have to you when it comes down to using logic and common sense. Because the stuff that we're talking about is just straight up common sense. We can see this. We can see the result of it. Like, this is not deep. It's not no. It's really not no. Oh, my bad. I just heard something, but it's just like
Yeah, I heard it too. You're right, brother.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is the problem that we're going through. People are not understanding logic, simple things that we can see in reality. It doesn't take rocket science to basically see that there is a high single mother rate, and that most women in our community are the ones having these children by the same men. Like, literally the same 10 guys is having all these baby mothers. I mean,
right.
So
right. No, I totally agree. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, if they literally see that this guy's a deadbeat and still continuously have children with this guy, at that point, that, yes, it's his fault for actually engaging in it, but it's more of the fault of the person who accepted that in the first place. Like, you know what the danger is. You signed up for it willingly. You have to be accountable for the consequences that come behind it.
And it
you
appears that
can't
many
even
times, right, and it appears that many times, Supreme Court, they don't want the consequences. Hold tight, let me set out these super chats. Shout out to my man, United Fitness. Shout out to Tim Howard, you the real MVP. And you're correct, Tim Howard is the real MVP. Much love and blessings to Tim. I love Tim and Gail whenever she's on. She does a very good job. So shout out to United Fitness. Thank you, brother. I miss you. I haven't seen you in a while. Hopefully you can pop on for a minute. And then shout out to my man, Uncle Stu, for the $20 super chat. Thank you, Uncle Stu. I enjoyed you last night with Dana with the data. That was an excellent show. I enjoyed that. And Uncle Stu, you can pop in at some point, brother, if you want to. But he says, time to take power. Raise up the standard, keep it moving. Leaders do not care what groups think. Leaders create, build, and develop government. Head rules and the body follow. And I agree 100%. And where is it within the contextual framework of America? And go check out Uncle Stu, Old Man on the Block. Tim dropped his link. You guys go check him out. He's an elder in my opinion, and he's from North Carolina. But whether you guys agree or not, he's correct. It's time for black men to start raising the standard and demanding power. And if you can't get cooperation in America, keep saving your money, because I'm about to travel again. I'm about to be in Rio this week, Thursday. And we're going to celebrate the life and the death of Charles Tyler. And we're going to get ready for the movie Frustrated 3. We're going to be talking about the movie Frustrated 3. So guys, go check that out. So Black Fire Rising, thank you guys for camming up. What else are you getting from this conversation, man? Then Uncle Stu, I want you to bring it in and add to it, brother. Go ahead.
Man, well, first of all, sorry, but I was trying to figure out how to take the avatar off, and
no, you good,
I was going around in circles there, man. But I think that what I get most out of it is I appreciate the actual information, and I like to, I love information. I love sharing, wisdom across the spectrum. I understand that people have different opinions and, things ought to be tried and proven. I think what I get most out of it is a narrative and a space where you can kick around ideas and share thoughts, share the opinions and the power of the intellect without in fear of being sort of censored, even self-censoring. Because I know I was raised to be self-censoring. I was raised with the dominant female, high voice, yelling, giving you alternatives, the whole nine, man. And one of the things I was ingrained in me from a young age was to be humble. Man, that went for the school setting, it went for home. And over time, I think that sense of that notion of humility, it transferred into, it took energy away from confidence in a lot of cases. And to not be arrogant, to not be toxic or any of these things, oftentimes what they wind up translating into a growing male's mind and psyche is it saps off of the confidence, and even a thought that you can have certain conversations and advance certain notions and still be correct and politically correct and morally correct. And that's sort of a self-censoring thing that I know I'm still in the process of overcoming.
Yes, sir.
So it's really refreshing to just sort of have these spaces.
Well, I have these spaces because I believe that it's necessary. We call it in the clinical world a group catharsis. And see, I've said in the past that a broken man is a hopeless man. And a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. So when a man does not have the ability to emote his emotions, he internalizes, which is an implosion that actually leads to an explosion, and it causes men to snap. And I did a show talking about the rubber band man. Men begin to snap because men don't have the power to speak. Men a lot of times are censored, and we just suffer in silence. The disrespect, the other disrespect that black men are conditioned to is appalling. But I'm telling you, men, you don't have to take disrespect from no man. It's time for black men to start taking their place back in their communities, like Uncle Stu said. If the women are not cooperating, you shake the dust off your feet, focus on yourself, stack your money, get your passport, and be treated like the great kings that you are. Because I'm telling you guys, in other countries, you guys are treated like kings. Women love American black men abroad. Are women abroad, can they be tricky? Yes. Women at their hard drive are all universally the same, meaning on at their core level. Provision, protection, maintenance. But here's the difference. They've been conditioned and socialized to respect black men in the patriarchy. Are some countries becoming more westernized? Yes. But at the same time, the odds are a lot higher that you can get a traditional woman, mostly on the countryside, than they are with many of the women here in America, unfortunately. And that's not just black women, it's American women. And what people don't understand is that we love black women, we love them. But if you're not getting the cooperation, you got to move on, man, because your time on this earth is limited. And to the young men, don't waste your time on barren ground. Go with women that are going to celebrate you instead of tolerating you. Uncle Stu, what do you want to add to the conversation, brother, based on what you've been saying? And shout out to my man Low End Theory. But what do you want to add to the conversation, Uncle Stu? And thank you for the $20 super chat.
You're very welcome. I'm always going to be a supporter of anybody that's developing their own lane and building. What I'm also going to tell you, young brothers, when he talks about going out, I'm a man that has traveled the world 3 times over.
Yes, sir.
Do not accept the narrative that you're only accepted by the poorest of the poor, and that you're only accepted because everybody's trying to come to America. Sad to say, everybody ain't trying to come to America.
Yes, that's true. Right.
All right. Everybody ain't trying to come to America. But what I do want you to get is you are American. I know we love to say with Black American this, but outside this country, they see you as American. And they know your history better than you do. Go to France and they're going to teach you more about your Black history than you probably learned in your own country. Second thing I want to say, because of my background in politics, no country or government was ever taken unless it was taken by force. See, we can sit here and we can complain, we can cry, we can snot, we can say you. It's time just to build. Take what is righteous of yours. You understand? If that means you look at that Constitution and it says you have a First Amendment right. I'm a veteran, United States Army. I fought for your right to speak. Period. Speak. If you don't know how to speak, fine. Send me an email and I'll teach you how to speak. But I fought for your right to speak, just like I fought for every single color, race, sex, ethnicity, everybody, their right to speak. There are some countries, a lot of people can't even speak. You have a right to speak.
Exactly.
You have a right to feel. You have a right to be angry. If you go according to the Bible, be angry, sin not. Don't let your wrath go down before nightfall. You don't have to tolerate. You know the problem. Be the man to fix it and keep it moving. You understand? You can't sit there and spend 20 hours complaining about the problem and then ask the person that's giving you the problem, can you please fix it? Can you please Shane? Because let's be honest, if I put $1,000 in your hand, I say, well, can I have half? I never worked for it. Can I have, you gonna give me half of it? No. You think people just gonna submit to you and just give you power they got?
Ain't gonna happen.
Huh? Exactly. Satan lied, right? He lied, took power. You think now he gonna give it back?
Not without a fight.
Exactly. So when do we, who claim, now listen to what we say on our mouth, but we don't do in our actions. We claim we are kings. We claim we are warriors. We claim we are providers. We claim we are protectors, right? And then we run back to the very government, very system, and beg them like we ain't got none of the power. What makes them different than us? This becomes no longer even racial. What makes you different than the next man? I can go back and talk about slavery all day. I can go back and talk about the 30s all day, the 50s all day. But y'all got access to stuff that wasn't even in me and Coach Knishin's arsenal.
Right.
You know what you got? Something called the World Wide Web.
Right.
Yeah.
So stop thinking that the only business you got is a Black-owned business. No, you don't. You have a World Wide Web business. You have a World Wide Web form of communication. You have a World Wide Web of access. Utilize it. Take advantage of it. You don't know how to budget? What we say now in the new time, Google it.
Right, right.
You
and
don't
also,
know how to write? Google it.
Right, no, you're right, Uncle Stu. And also, they don't have the opportunity, they don't have what you and I didn't have. This is the first time in history when men are congregating, sharing with other young men knowledge that you and I didn't have. We didn't have this knowledge. Me and Uncle Stu and Low End Theory, we had to figure out through trial and error. But what you guys are getting is something unique. You're actually getting something that's powerful because you're getting a licensed clinical therapist. I'm not a bootleg, I'm not a jackleg, I'm real. You know, I went to one of the best schools in the country, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And so, you know, not bragging, but, you know, it's considered a Research One university, number 3 in the nation as far as a university. And I'm still learning some of the things I learned from grad school because it's so expansive. But you guys are getting something because many people won't take this avenue. Many don't see it as attainable. But you're getting a licensed clinical therapist with a background in law enforcement, a black background in special education. And, you know, and I take it upon myself with great pride to empower young black men and boys. This, you know, all men, but mostly young black men and boys, because our situations and our history is unique to other ethnic groups. So you guys are getting something unique because, you know, many times, like I think Supreme Ka said, and the other young brother, they didn't get an opportunity to share their story. It was often toxic, and many times they were censored in their own homes. And what that does, it suppresses the masculinity of a man. And I'm telling you, in other countries, your masculinity is not suppressed, it's actually given credence to, and you're not made to seem this less than. So go ahead, Uncle Stu, I apologize. Go ahead.
No problem. You know, Coach Condition is your therapist. Believe it or not, I'm your spiritual doctor because back in North Carolina, I went to one of the top theological schools. And you know what I learned in that theological school? I learned more about black history in that theological school than you could ever imagine.
Right.
Most of the theologians I study are all African. You understand? And white America studies these theologians to get their theology degree. You feel me? So you're not even going to get feminist liberal theology out of me. You understand? But what you have to do, if you don't fit the woman narrative, and you don't fit some of these men's narratives, because I'm going to tell you, you got men, they'll say, man, you know, we can't get these women to submit. Leaders know how to break all that stuff down. Get into your rightful place. I guarantee you they'll submit. Why? Because what are they submitting to? Order, authority.
Well, let me tell you something. I agree with Casual Observer, Uncle Stu.
Yes.
At the micro, meso, and the macro level, there are some, regardless of what you do, that's not going to submit. You could be an exemplar.
That's
you
right.
could be a man, and
That's
you know,
right.
and I agree with Casual Observer. You can lead a horse to the well, but you can't make him drink.
That's why I said go overseas.
Right, exactly. And so, and I tell men, don't keep wasting your time, because you can have a home, you can be a good man, you can bust your ass, and some of them still ain't gonna submit because they're rebellious by nature. So to the rebellious ones, you know, people talking about do keep masculine frame, that don't mean nothing for some women. Some of them are damaged, and they're so damaged that you're just wasting your time. So you go to the woman that submits with you and get on your program, man. And shout out to my man Ema Z for the $2 super chat. Other communities hold women responsible, and he's right. Sadly, we're forced, and that's true. In other countries, you know, we're not advocating violence, but in other countries, they are held with force. So Uncle Stu, you travel abroad, and then I want Low End Theory to pop in and add to this conversation. But when you travel abroad overseas, I want you to tell the young men what you saw to the women that got out of line and got out of order. Was the patriarchy strong in those countries? And then I want Low End Theory to add to this conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Not only was the patriarchal strong, but understand that the governmental system within the patriarchal does not have a license for women just to legally leave their husband because they don't feel good. See, this system got set up where once they introduce welfare into that system, they pump this whole system with the strength of raising up the women. You understand what I'm saying? So they made it where you couldn't even be the man in your home. If that woman wanted you, she couldn't have you. They gave her a guaranteed check. They didn't give you nothing. You understand? So they made it where even if she wanted you in the home, she couldn't legally marry you, which means there was no marital rights. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a whole lot of structure that been broken. So now it's time for us to take the brokenness and take it back.
Right.
You understand?
And you can take it back in America, which I think is fallible, or you can take it back by focusing on yourself, save yourself, black man, or you can take it back by building yourself, building your money, and getting you a passport. I told guys there are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized. World travel is going to help you see things from a totally different perspective. Looking at this young buck, Supreme Kai, man, you'll be a young god in other countries. You know, they'll treat you like a young god in other countries, and that's real talk. Your masculinity will rise, your testosterone will rise, and you can get. And listen, they'll treat you good. You just can't go over there simply. Same with Black Fire Rising. You'll be treated as a young god in other countries. Women that are naturally feminine and submissive because they have what's called beauty density. In those countries, there's so many pretty women that they know they got to act right, and it's supported by a strong black male order. And so go in countries and get your money right. Focus on your money, invest. If you're not married, get you women over there with the understanding that some of those women have issues too. They're not perfect. And once you understand the dynamics of how women think, that there are some women that practice kosher hypergamy and some practice carnal hypergamy, get your woman that's going to practice kosher hypergamy, which is fit and proper. She's not trying to exploit you, but she do want a man to take care of her, provide for her, and protect her. And in the end, she'll take care of you, because see, women over there, they don't see cooking for you as being a slave. They think it's weird if you try to go cook. They're like, why are you cooking? Why are you washing dishes? Because they've been conditioned to serve their men. Here in America, we have women that think if she cooked for a man, it makes her a slave, which is weird, because at any point in your time in your life, you're expected to give your life for your woman. At any point, you're expected to take the bullet if somebody breaks in the house. At any point, you're expected to provide all the time. So, Low End Theory, I want you to add to this conversation, is black masculinity, Low End Theory, the new Mister, and is Kevin Samuels the new Mister based on your recollection of what you see currently in America? And also, shout out to Casual Observer, the productive men have no wives. What do you mean? I don't know. Yeah, we'll get back to that. I don't know what that means. But what do you get from the conversation real quick?
I'm going to drop off the stream real quick,
okay,
but I'm listening in the background.
Okay, brother.
It only costs you $100 to get a passport. I know y'all got $100 somewhere.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
$100. Yes, sir.
I'll be listening in the background for you, my brother.
Thank you, brother. All right. Appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Low End Theory. What do you get from the conversation, brother?
Well, of course, we always make this comparison with black men and Mr. from The Color Purple.
Right.
But if you look throughout history, black history, U.S. history, if you really look at it, if you really look at The Color Purple and Mr.'s depiction in that movie, that was not black men.
Mm-hmm.
That was white men.
Mm-hmm.
That's what white men. That's what white men did to their women.
Mm-hmm.
At what point in history do you? And I'm looking at The Color Purple and how I'm thinking that it was depicted in the early 1920s, 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's what Alice Walker was going for.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the source, Alice Walker, she's, she doesn't like men.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't like men a long time ago. So what better avenue and portal to use than somebody who does not like men
mm-hmm.
to create a movie to where the black man in the movie, and also, if you look at it, you look at Mr.'s father as well, where the black man in the movie was this abusive, domineering, you're gonna do what I say, or I'm gonna beat you. That was how white men did their women.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't how black men did their women. I can tell you from what I know about my grandparents and my great grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
That's because if we're coming out of slavery, black men had more of a protective role for their wives and children than a domineering role. because of what we had just come out of. So we didn't come out of an ethic of where we had that type of control, especially here in America. We didn't come out of that. We came out of being enslaved. You're seeing our family members beaten, killed, all of that. So at freedom, I mean, and you can look at many examples that gone through the court systems. The Dred Scott decision, and how he fell in love with a woman and he just wanted to be with the woman. And so the depiction that The Color Purple depicted was a false depiction of black men, but it was a good foundation for somebody to say, this is how black men have acted towards their women.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't go with the whole narrative of the black man is Mr. from The Color Purple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, because throughout history, you won't find, by and large, to where black men were abusive to their women in the 1920s and the 1930s.
Right. And listen, we're not saying that, as I said earlier, Low in Theory, domestic issue is not endemic just to black men. All ethnic groups had domestic issues. And some of those men, Low in Theory, to the guys that are listening, were dealing with trauma themselves. I did a show on Mr. And who's to say that Mr. was not a victim of trauma? Who's to say that Mr. didn't see his mom graped? The G word, I'm sorry. Who's to say that Mr. didn't have people in his family that were part of white supremacy, and they had the K word. So my whole point is, we tend to always talk about Mr., but we don't talk about the history of Mr. and what caused Mr. and what made Mr. to become the man that he is. We don't really see the pain that it has made a lot of the men that we see in society. Mm-hmm. We don't look at it through the mental health lens. We just see him as just a monster, and we don't look at all the things that caused him to be a monster. And because of that, we tend to demonize the man instead of trying to understand him. And you're correct, Alice Walker did have a negative issue towards black men. She had a hatred towards black men, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. To the 45 that are listening, I would love for a woman to come up and give her input. And we asked the question: is black masculinity the new Mr.? And also, is Kevin Samuels the new Mr.? What's your take on how women? This woman attacked Kevin Samuels and said that, if she want to get a high value man, that be prepared to get the R word. What's your take on that?
It's another false positioning, because she doesn't like that the information that's coming out now is coming out. I mean, the light is bright and is shining on our black women and their disparities today. Mm-hmm. Kevin Samuels is just a vehicle. He said that himself. It's not about him. This problem is so much larger than him. It's so much larger than Angry Man. It's so much larger than BGS. Mm-hmm. This problem is, you want to attack the personality instead of attacking the problem. Mm-hmm. And, not seeing that the problem lies within a lot of the times that, the positions that our women have moved our community into. Now, mm-hmm. I will say this. We can't absolve men, our black men as well. We can't absolve them. Right. We have a whole lot of problems within that. And I think what women would like for black men to do is to jump on the backs of our other black men. How many times have we been doing that? While ignoring, while ignoring what our women do. See, we're supposed to give women a pass. Nah, you don't get a pass. So her saying this stuff about Kevin Samuels, that's just trying to destroy the work that he's doing. And it's work. Although he may have over 1 million subscribers, I think what he's doing is important. I think what a lot of the brothers are doing is important, because we're getting the information out there. We're making the communications between each other. And this is the part that they did not want to happen. And I will say this, that black women follow the lead of white women.
I agree with
they follow the lead of white women. So and we always gotta say that the most precious commodity here in America is a white woman. Mm-hmm. Black women want to be a part of that group, but because they want to be a part of that group, so they will follow and try to piggyback off of what white women are doing.
Right.
So that's all. Just trying to derail the work that's being done. That's all.
Right. Shout out to Casual Observer. He's correct. Every race of men builds concentrically from the family unit to the community to the cities. Black women use the black man don't build nonsense to justify being uncooperative women. What did you think about this diatribe by this woman? Because she did some truth mixed with error. It's like she was being very passive aggressive. I don't know if you saw the.
I listened for about 30 minutes.
What was your take on that, brother?
Well, I will say like I said, she was. You can hear the aggression in her voice. You can hear the matter of factness in her voice, that she did not like the things that's happening within the manosphere. And she used whatever platform that she had to build this whole diatribe that she spoke of. Now, what it was funny to me because I said, this is like what Casual Observer said, to say that black men don't build what? I mean, you're living in a world now that's pretty much ready made.
Right.
And to say that black men had nothing to do with that is absolutely wrong.
Right.
So,
like slavery was the result of how all this stuff happened. That was all men.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And most of it wasn't on no white man. I mean, all of those railroads, as a matter of fact, my great uncle, who's passed away, God rest his soul, he did 15 years hard labor. You know what he was doing? Building railroads. Most of the people that were in prison with him was black men. So all the railroads that you see built down in South Carolina in that area down there, those things were built by black men in prison. Now, you might not like the fact that the men were in prison, but a lot of the infrastructure were built by men in prison back in the earlier years.
And also, bro, like I would add to that too, building as a concept of, oftentimes it seems like our women will look at who has the jobs or the positions in society versus who's actually contributed, laid groundwork. Because before you build anything, you got to have a foundation, you got to lay groundwork, and then you need material. You got the material part of building, you got, architectural part of building is just, it's only one faction of it. And when you count for credit of who's been the fodder, who's built prison industries, who's built, like you said, actual positive infrastructure, and, when you look at it in a holistic sort of sense and say who deserves credit for the most contribution, because that's, at the end of the day, that's also what makes things possible.
Right.
Right. And like you said, men in prison are building by force actual labor, but they're also sustaining an entire system on their back to the tune of 70% or more. And, any industry you think of, where can you not say we haven't been, like the scripture says, we got a chief cornerstone, right? That we have to give credit to.
That's right. That's right. I think they're more concerned about the person that's cutting the ribbon. That they're giving more credit to the man that's cutting the ribbon and saying he's the one who built it. Now, most of the time, the man who cut the ribbon had absolutely nothing to do.
He gets the confetti,
exactly,
and the applause.
Exactly.
I'm here, I'm gonna cut the ribbons, and everybody comes through. That's it. That's all
it is.
They're for the glory. And that's what a lot of women, especially in this society, I would say, like in American culture, want. A lot of times they want the glory, but they don't want to put in the work. They don't understand that it takes a lot to actually do all this stuff. First of all, when it comes down to even sewage systems, for them to flush their toilets after they even use it, to use the shower, to basically cut on the sink. It takes people who maintain the sewage system, who maintains plumbing, people who are maintaining refrigeration. These are not easy tasks. Some people lose their lives actually dealing with this. There's people
Right.
who lost their lives actually dealing with busted pipes. Mind you, like stuff underground. A lot of the times, our cities, what a lot of them don't even know is that our cities literally have a system of pipes that run underneath the streets, and to work on those is very dangerous. Sometimes a pipe might actually bust, and then water or oil or whatever it is that's slipping through might actually hit somebody, and it's at so much force that some people have been critically injured before all of that. These tasks is not easy. There's people doing this every day without complaining.
Right.
And these are usually men. I don't see no women in line to
Right.
take any of these jobs. There's no
Yeah.
woman out there really, like, there is some, don't get me wrong, there's definitely some women out there that will actually take it, but those are extremely few. And those ones, they don't even complain about these situations either, because they understand what comes with it. They have more sense. They have more logic. They're not the ones who is making these complaints and is this delusional. And so it just shows you that there is a certain group of people that subscribe to this mindset only because they're really just in a fantasy land. Like in other cultures, they understand that relationships and marriage is a duty. It's not a fantasy. It's not
Right, it's a duty. Right, that's true. Right, right. That is true. Right, right. Romance comes after that. Romance comes after that. But many go into relationships looking at it from the romantic aspect. That's why on the wedding day, the one is exonerated as being the precipice or the exemplar or the idol to be glorified. And that's why many times once women get married, when the fun goes away, when the princess image goes away, they become bored. And some want to get a divorce. You know, many times our women, sadly, American women get divorced off from frivolous reasons. And that's why men don't get divorced, because men understand they have a greater penalty to pay. And so this woman has definitely been indoctrinated by liberal schools. And
you know what, brother,
right.
Brother Kosher?
Mm-hmm.
I think that sister, and I don't believe that she really is really believes in what she's saying.
Right, I agree.
It's something that she can do for clout, for likes, for comments, for followers, for subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Makes them more reckless.
That's exactly. You just doing this because you are hoping that somebody has the same thought process or has gone through the same diatribe, or who has had a problem, maybe one of the 100 problems that you were talking about. The lady doesn't really believe what she's saying. She's not going to do what she's saying.
Right.
It's for social media.
Right.
Exactly. This is flawed because you're telling people basically, like, and the audience, of course, is disgruntled, bitter black women, and she's going ahead telling them, hey, whatever you do, understand that you are not, accountability is based upon blame, and you're the one being blamed, and you're the victim in this situation, as if these are not grown adults who have the agency to make their own decisions.
Right.
And so that has never come up. That has never been the thing. And even though she's using facts, people can use facts to actually spin them. At the end of the day, we're using the English language, and the English language was designed to actually be double talk. Meaning you can actually use this to play with people's minds. This is something that, the CIA understands. This is what other government agencies all around the world understand, like specifically with the English language. And so that's why there's many definitions. That's why a lot of times people can basically spin you into. In fact, I would actually say, like with the lead attorney, I'm not so much in, like, I don't really drop by so much to watch a lot of stuff in the manosphere, but I do. Whenever I do, I pick up the gems. I make sure that. And so I've seen stuff on the lead attorney, and something major that he dropped on a lot of people that I don't know how many people really took or paid attention to it. And it's just that attorneys don't actually deal with the law. They deal with psychology. They deal with how they can convince you, how they can actually make it seem as if what they're saying is factual, even with using facts. So it's just like, if I'm competent enough, I talk to you in such a way where I'm using these facts, even though I have my own specific agenda, it seems factual, it seems very sound. And so this is all this woman is really doing. Like she's just coming at it with a certain level of confidence, and so it sounds convincing. Even though we see and pick up the energy behind it, we see the narrative. It's not a matter of making peace with the actual reality of what's going on. It's the idea of no, you're not accountable, and you don't have to be because you're coming. You are this special person who gets to stick through the system, and it's like no, reality will make you pay for whatever you do. Your actions is never going to go unrewarded, whatever it is, whether it's negative or positive.
Hey man, I want to thank you, brothers, man, and
thank you, brother.
I'm
thank
glad
you,
I found your channel.
Thank you,
I'm gonna be on the lookout, man. And
how did you find the channel, brother? How did you find it?
Just watching it sort of was in the vein of the things I look at, and I you know, favorited you. I'm trying to start my own little one. It's Black Fire Rising too,
yes,
man.
Sir.
Just
yes,
trying
sir.
to do my humble contribution.
No doubt, brother.
And thanks again, man. And shoot, I'll be there supporting, brother. Keep up.
Thank you, brother. Share the content,
commission,
man. And I appreciate it, brother. Much love, man.
Will do.
Real quick, guys. You know, if there are any women watching, please join the conversation. We're going to end this stream in the next 10 to 15 minutes because I do have to go. I have clients to see, and I got to get ready for this trip out of the country. But if there are any women listening, I would like for some of the women to come on and add to the conversation because I like to hear from the cogent sisters that are trying to do the right thing, but they often get assailed by women that have no intentions to do the right thing. So to the sisters that are listening, let's have a conversation. Tim, I'm going to drop the link again. And I want some of the women to join in. If none of the women want to join in, any more of the brothers want to join in, you guys can join. And thank you to all the guys that have donated to the channel. I'm honored and I'm grateful. You guys are awesome. You guys support me and you support the cause. And therefore I'm grateful. So to some of the sisters, that are listening, I want you guys to join the conversation. And to some of the guys that are dealing with mental health issues, I do what's called non-diagnostic consultations. Please email me at kosherclinician@gmail.com. That's kosherclinician@gmail.com, where I can help you guys work through some of your pathologies. And at some point, I'll probably start a Patreon as well, as I have content for Patreon members. Please support me at kosherclinician@gmail.com if you need help dealing with mental health issues that have caused you to be in a state of disrepair. So once again, to the women that are watching, let's join the conversation because we're going to shut the stream down in a few minutes. And then also to any other brothers that want to drop in and add, you guys can come in. But starting with Supreme Ka, what did you get from this conversation? Because I know Ka in Egyptian means soul. And so what did you get from this conversation? See, I know, yeah. So what did you get from this conversation, man? And how does this conversation help you as a young brother? And how did you find out about the channel too, by the way?
I remember actually seeing this like it came up actually as a suggestion.
Okay,
and so
good.
like I just
suggested, right?
Yeah, I started seeing it in the algorithm, so I went on and I actually seen what it is because I'm always looking to improve whatever I know. Like,
okay, all right, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And when it comes down to like even with the messages that you're giving out, first of all, I'm a person that likes psychology, so you deal with that and you're looking at the source. And so whenever it's like that, I always like to go to that. Like, all right, what is the source of the issue that's at hand? Like why? Like we have so many questions, but there's certain things that bug us a lot of times where we deal with this whether with ourselves or within the community. And you get down to those talking points, and so like that interests me off rip. And so I'm like, okay, and the questions is what gets like or what is the talking points, and so from there I'm like, let me listen.
Right. You must be a Gemini or an Aquarian.
Oh no, actually, I'm somewhat the opposite of those. Like I'm close to Aquarius, Capricorn.
Okay, well you're close to, you're a cusper. What did you get from the show Low End Theory, and how did this show impact you, or more or less reaffirm some of the things you've already knew about the social malaise that we have here in America?
Well, just kind of confirmed that black men need to exercise options. At some point, we gotta cut the cord, and that's just the bottom line. If we don't cut the cord,
Please
You
start.
know, you can go down with the sinking ship.
Hmm.
That's just the bottom line. I
And I think a
mean,
lot of black men are cutting the cord, brother. They're definitely
yeah,
cutting
I,
it. Right.
I I agree. I agree, and that goes with a whole lot of things. And I think part of that cutting of the cord is as you build yourself as a man.
Hmm.
That helps you to cut that cord. And a lot of times we have to shut off all of the extra minutia in media and things like that. Even as it pertains to racism, shut off that minutia because it can hinder you from growing as a man.
Hmm.
You more concerned about what white people are doing, what
Right.
the administration is doing,
Hmm.
and all of that good stuff, because all of those things are actually used as tools to block black men from being better men.
Hmm.
And so once we kind of get over that and kind of grab hold to the meat and spit out the bones
Hmm.
that's in the manosphere, because we got a lot of bones in the manosphere. But
Right.
if we
Hmm.
can eat the meat and spit out the bones, then we can get our own personal nourishment and
Hmm.
start to be better men. And that way, whether the women follow or not,
Hmm.
being a better man makes you a better man for the entire world, not
I
just
totally
here
agree.
in
I
the
totally
United
agree.
States. Yeah,
No
yeah.
doubt. No doubt. I totally agree. And shout out to my man CGLA for the $10 super chat. I really appreciate the fact that you bring credentials to back up the knowledge that you bring, that you impart the information with the understanding of the black community. And I count on the honor CGLA because I love what I do. I did this channel out of a process called sublimation. And thank you, Casual Observer. He said I was a day one follower. Always make sure to hit you with the super chat. I appreciate that, brother. And one day, please pop on because I love your intellect. I love your savvy. I even love your dry sarcasm. You're a cool brother. Thank you, man. And this has been a hard journey. Content creation is hard. You have to be very creative. Many times I'm up late at night trying to, come up with ideas to support the brotherhood. But I do it with all joy because if I can save young men like Supreme Car, if I can give middle-aged men or guys close to my age like Low End Theory points of reference to encourage him, it's all for naught. And so I count it an honor to do these shows. I count it an honor to support the brotherhood because I want to see this young man empowered. I want to see him go get his passport. I want to see this young man realize that you got some inherent worth outside of America. I want you to go to Rio. I want you to go see statues like the statue of Christ in Rio and realize that in those countries, you're supported. In those countries, they have issues too. Some of the women got game, but by and large, they treat you better than most women here in America. You're not seen as a commodity to be used and cast aside like toilet paper. They see you as a man, and on top of that, they don't mind cooking for you. They don't see sex as a bargaining chip. They see sex as something that they do because they love their man. And so I tell men to love themselves, focus on your health, and also read, man, read books, drink plenty of water, get vitamin D, get sunlight, get your health right, because there are 7 steps. There are 7, because if it's not 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become calibrated or optimized. Once that man is optimized, he becomes the best version of himself. Shout out to my man Sam C for the $5 super chat. We now have mental health professionals in this spirit. Good stuff. You're right, man. And I'm one of the few ones. And so I love what I'm doing, man. And we're going to keep pushing the movement, man. We're going to liberate one brother at a time. If you guys have not seen the show that I did with Al Grease, with Aaron Ferris is part of the Passport Black Men Travels. Al Grease wrote Frustrated 1, Frustrated 2, and Frustrated 3. I'm going to be in Frustrated 3. Al is still working on that movie now, but I'm going to be in that movie at some point. And we're trying to give black men options. Once again, we're not saying we have issues with women here, but I think it will come to the conclusion that many won't listen. Many don't really care. And I was on Dana with the Data Show. She did a great job last night. Shout out to Dana. She's a sweetheart. And and while Dana and I might not agree on all things, Dana is balanced and she's fair. That's what I like about Dana. She's very fair. There were women in the chat that they didn't even support my channel because they didn't like the fact that Dana did a show saying that black men suffer in silence. And they didn't share the content. They didn't say anything because they have vitriol. They have contempt for black men. So when black men travel, they say, oh, y'all just going to get prostitutes. Oh, they only want a green card. You know, the same old shaming language, you know, to try to convince black men that they're not worthy. And so more or less, man, you know, it's just the evidence that we're seeing that many of these women will continue to be victims of a concept that's based on cognitive dissonance called death, deny, become enraged, they argue through ad hominem attacks, and they fight or flee because they don't want to deal with that schema affliction that they're having. So like I said, man, you know, this has been another awesome show. I got another one before I go back. It'll probably be a short show tomorrow, and you guys are going to love this one. You know, you're going to really love the one I got coming up tomorrow. But these shows are time consuming, so I got a couple of assessments I got to do before I leave the country. But like I said, man, this has been a powerful show, guys. Please share the content. If there are some women listening, I would love for one of the women to come on for within the next 5 minutes to share, have a conversation with Tim, with Low End Theory and Supreme Car. If there are any women listening, pop in for a few minutes to join the conversation. To the beautiful Anye Kenya, you know, pop in sometime, sister. You know, you sit back in the cut. Come in and share your points of view. You might be shy. You don't have to cam up. But please come in, Anye Kenya. I don't even know how to say your name. Nye Nanya, I believe that's how you say it. But anyway, come in, dear, if you would like to. Snuggles, I need you to come in. You know, you always hide in the cut. I ain't seen you in a long time, Snuggles. And shout out to my man, the moderator, Tim Howard. Western women has great hate for black men towards men, especially in the black community. And I agree with you 100%. So Anye Kenya, if you would like to, dear, please pop in. Let's add to the discussion with Supreme Ka and also Low End Theory in the next 3 minutes. But if not, we're going to sign off. Supreme Ka, are you in a relationship, man? You know, before we leave, what kind of woman do you want to be your wife when that time is right? What kind of woman does Supreme Ka want for his wife? And then Low End Theory, I'm going to ask you real quick, what kind of woman do you want? And then we're going to sign off because I have to go.
What I would say to that is someone who basically understands themselves. They did the shadow work. And also somebody who, you know, they're about their life. Like at the end of the day, you know, a lot of women do not understand. Well, I would say a lot in the Western world, do not who they are. And so it's just like they go into a relationship. They're looking for you to bring something that they should bring out for themselves. They look into you for happiness when it's really them that can make their own. I'm not looking for the woman to make happiness for me. I create all this stuff for myself. So it's just I did someone who work on themselves and someone who understands their role in the relationship, because a lot of women who try to overstep and think that they're going to be the man. It's just like there's women who I've talked to plenty of times who I just be like if they talk about equality, I'm just here like, can I be the one to incubate a child? Stops from there, because it's just like not equal. If you're incubating the child and I don't have the ability to do that, how in the world are we equal? If you actually develop that sickness every month and I don't do that, that clearly shows there's differences between us. There's roles that we naturally have and that we naturally play out. So, you know, this whole thing about, you know, when it comes down to even traditionalism in modern day times, a lot of women are mad about that, only because it's just like they want a traditional man, modern day stuff, and it's just like it doesn't work. It's either you're going to be one or the other, and if you're going to be one, you have to be okay with what that comes with. Like a job. When you go to your job, there is a dress code, there is a duty that you're supposed to complete and carry out. There's tasks that you're supposed to do that specific. You do argue with that, but a relationship which is for life, potentially you're going to go ahead and you're going to try to change all the rules that come with that. No. First of all, at the end of the day, if you understand your role, you're going to be at the happiest, the most happiest you'll ever be, because you know what's coming. You know what to do. Nothing weird or, you know, out of place that's going to happen. And so because it's like that, you know, it's nothing that's going to put you in a chaotic mode. And so unfortunately, with a lot of women, we see in today's time that that's not the case. They rather be, you know, strong and wrong rather than, you know, playing their role and just not coming across no problem. I mean, I don't see the issue with that. Men could do that. Well, some men could do that, because not a lot of us is damaged. But you know what I mean, like
right. No doubt.
men are more able to complete their role within the relationship. Like,
Right. I see your point.
I have no problem doing what I'm supposed to do.
For the most part, I think men in general, you're 100% correct. You know, we by nature are traditionalists. We tend to adhere to traditional mores and norms. I think men still are more marriage ready than a lot of our women are because we have not taken on the modernistic tendencies. We tend to still stick within the confines of being traditional. Real quick, Low End Theory, the next queen that you get, the next woman that becomes your wife, what qualifications must she have to come into your kingdom? Because it is your kingdom, it is Supreme Ka's kingdom. What must she have to come into your kingdom, brother?
Okay, she must have, first of all, she must have a father
Mm-hmm.
in her life. She must have a father who she loves, respects, honors. That's number one. Second, she must be under 30 years old. Uh, she
I
must
feel
understand. I mean, hey, she must understand duty. Even in the relationship phase, there's
Right,
still duty.
right.
Duty just doesn't happen in marriage. Uh, and I know, we can say that the traditional mindset is gone and there's no more women like that. Well, I would beg to differ. I mean, they're all over the world. So
Over the world, right.
they're
Mm-hmm.
all over the world. So if that means that I have to, and I've done this, I mean, I have a passport. The last place I've been was last month. I was in the DR,
Mm-hmm.
and I, I'm ready to go back.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, of course, all of the F's: fit, feminine, friendly, uh, fun, someone who has a good understanding and a good grasp of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sitting here talking to a dummy. So you know, I'm not asking for much because I'm providing the world for you to come into. I'm not asking you to have you know anything other than a good head on your shoulders and not bring me a lot of problems. If you have a good family life, those other things I can work around because you come into my home.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming into everything that I've already built. I'm not asking a woman to have a degree, how to have a certain amount of money. And yeah, if it's possible, I would like to have what my mother and father had, if it's possible.
Right.
If it's not possible, then I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay.
Mm-hmm. No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. Well, listen, guys, this has been another great show. Thank you guys for the support. Shout out to my man Supreme Ka. Low End Theory, man. I always love your insight, man. I love it, you guys camming up, because I don't know. Sometimes I don't know who I'm looking at. I like looking at avatars. I like to see who I'm looking at, because you don't know you're dealing with crazy folks. And so, like I said, man, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Guys, we're about to sign off. It's about 36 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. Bring it to you live from the greatest state in the union, the Tar Heel State. And shout out to my man, International Millionaire. What's up, brother? But we're about to sign off. This has been another great show. We will bring it to you again tomorrow. And guys, I'm gonna take you guys off real quick. I'm gonna take you guys off. Shout out, all right, Supreme, come take you guys off. And like I said, guys, I told you that there are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized. And as I said in the show earlier, understanding female psychology is paramount to the efficacy of a man. We're about to sign off. This has been another great show. Thank you to all the guys. Thank you to all the guys, and always the timely Tim Howard. I missed Tim on Saturday. We had a powerful show with Black Ram. We had a 5-star show with Black Ram. With Black Ram. Who else we had? We had Black Ram. We had Al Grease, and we had Aaron Ferris with Black Men Travels. Man, it was a powerful show. Guys, go back and look at that show, The Degrees, the 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse, because the whole concept of the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse basically means that when black men start saying this is what we want and we're willing to do whatever to get it, it becomes apocalyptic mentally for sometimes some of the women in this country. And also, thanks again, Tim. Guys, go hit, share, and subscribe to the Kosher Clinician. I want you guys to share this channel with 20 people or more. We're at 20,000, almost 20. We're trying to get to 5,000 before the end of the year, if possible. If not 5,000, we'll take 3. We'll take 3,000, but at some point we want to get it to 10. And I'm going to continue to bring you guys quality content through the lens of the clinical therapist lens, but also as art imitating life. Because I understand that you got to use a concept that I call a streak of lean, streak of fat. There got to be a little bit of fat and also lean meat, because if I give you guys pure clinical concepts, it will bore you out. So I got to add, some elements to it that can keep you interested and engaged. And it's been an honor and a pleasure. And so, like I said, man, I look forward to continuing to serve you guys. We're about to sign off. I was hoping that some of the women would have came on, but they never came on. I was hoping that TJ would have came on, and also, some of the other sisters. But because I like hearing from women, the good sisters that are trying to change, and the good sisters that are trying to understand the brotherhood. But to no avail. But we're signing off. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Real quick, hold tight. I'm about to sign this thing off, guys, and hold tight. Technicalities with that. All right, well, nonetheless.
keep God first. I see evil, when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go, 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 go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off. You living boring, I'm gonna set it off. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it off. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it off. Son of God, no, I am not son of man. Blessings keep falling, the fingers keep coming in. I got you, but just know I'm texting like Uncle Sam. Left to the bank, you know that I'm coming in. We don't do it for the bands though, we don't do it for the clout. Legacy on the line, so I'm moving in and out. Seen good ones turn top dog, greedy ones get knocked off. I keep looking at the bench like I could never not ball. Coach keep me in the game, Curry deadly with the range. I keep looking in the mirror like, who is he? I'm insane. Who am I? He insane. Guess I ain't the one to blame. What's done is done, won't change. Time to live up to my name. Real will be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I'm made for a while. No sleeping, no, I won't fall. No sleeping, no, I want it all. I keep God first. I see evil when I converse. Now today say, this how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go, 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 go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off. You living boring, I'm gonna set it off. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it off. Like soldiers touring, I'm gonna set it off. Told my baby, meet me at the bank. Told my mama, I'ma break the trend. Locked in, I'ma change the weight. Working for my baby's kids. Hard times couldn't make the rent. Working hard couldn't save a cent. Lonely nights, just me and God. Swear to him, always made the ends. Grab a paper, see the news. Hate coming by the tools. Walk a mile in my shoes. Something you could never do. Got my back against the wall. Bet I always pull through. Who are you, who are you? Who are you, who are you? Sending shots, I block 'em. Superman with the moves. Rock 'em, sock 'em, drop, pop 'em. Play to win, never lose. Run it up, I top 'em. Play full belly too. I hip hop or pop 'em. Anything I could do. The real won't be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I'm made for a while. No sleeping, no, I won't fall. No sleeping, no, I want it all. I keep God first. I see evil when I converse. Now today say, this how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go, 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 go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off. You living boring, I'm gonna set it off. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it off. Like soldiers touring, I'm gonna set it off. Every time from Kilimanjaro. From Kilimanjaro. Kiliman, oh. Nah, she no island girl. She from Kilimanjaro. She from Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro. My little baby girl, rise on me. My little baby girl, rise on me. Maria. Every time you're looking out for me. Every time you're looking out for me. Love you, everything go from Maria. Sensibility, pretty girl like a Maria. Every time we meet up, every time we like oh, Maria. Now you want to spend more time with me. Do you want to be my wife, baby? I just want you in my life, baby. I like you, boo.